My name is Lisa. It's been almost a year since I married my husband, Robert. We live happily together in a small, affordable apartment, dreaming of moving into a new house. Robert's parents live just a 5-minute walk away, but they rarely visit us. Robert once said his mom doesn't want to interfere in our marriage, which is why she doesn't come over, even though we're close. I appreciated that about her, as many women worry about meddling mothers-in-law. But since I didn't have to worry, I felt relaxed about my family relationships. After a few years of work, we started talking about buying a house. During this time, my parents heard our plans and made us a generous offer. They said if we wanted to build a house, we could use some of their land. My parents aren't wealthy, but they had good land to give us thanks to my grandfather. He told them to pass it on to us so we could do whatever we wanted. When I told Robert about this, he was excited. He said we should take advantage of their offer and that he would be very grateful. So we began discussing what kind of house we wanted. We visited showrooms, checked out our boss's big mansion, and talked to real estate agents about new houses. Planning was fun. But one day, everything changed when Robert got a call from his mom. She somehow found out about our plans to build a new house and suggested we build a duplex so she could live with us. We were both shocked. We had never thought my mother-in-law would want to live so close to us. After a moment of silence, Robert gave a vague answer and tried to avoid the topic. This was understandable, since we hadn't planned on a duplex. We were hoping for a room for a future child, and if we made it a duplex, we would have to rethink everything. I worried that if we said no, it would hurt our relationship with my mother-in-law. We promised to have dinner at her place once a month, so we went to dinner. My mother-in-law brought up the duplex idea again. She asked if we had thought more about it and said she believed it was a good plan. She mentioned that they would help financially, and selling our apartment could give us a good amount of money. Plus, she said it would be convenient for when we have kids, because she could help us out. She quickly started listing the benefits of living in a duplex. I tried to speak up, but she kept going. While she had some good points, like getting help when we have a baby and the financial support, I felt that Robert and I could handle any challenges on our own. I thought it was better to rely on my own parents than risk being bullied by my mother-in-law. When she saw my worried face, she said, "Is it really that bad living with us? I thought you didn't hate us." She sounded sad, so I pretended not to hear her and quickly left her house. After that, she kept telling Robert every day about the duplex idea, which was starting to stress me out. I asked Robert what he wanted to do. Living together with our parents might be nice, but I didn't want to lose our alone time either. After thinking it over, we decided to say no to my mother-in-law's offer. We wanted to focus on our own time together, and we believed she would understand if we explained it well. When the day of our monthly family dinner came, we went to my mother-in-law's house to share our decision. But as we started to talk, she interrupted us. "Oh, about the duplex, we're moving forward with the plan." "What?" Before we could react, she added, "Mark is moving in too. He's a single dad, and it's tough for him. Let's help him out. Plus, it will be good practice for when you have your own kids, right?" We were so shocked by her words that we forgot what we had come to say. My mother-in-law took our silence as agreement and began planning the duplex, including ideas from my father-in-law and brother-in-law. We tried to tell our in-laws our decision several times, but they kept saying, "We're busy right now. Let's talk later." Meanwhile, the plans for the duplex moved ahead. Our in-laws were covering the construction costs, so we didn't have a big financial burden, but we were still going to live with them and my brother-in-law, who would need help with his child. Just thinking about it made me feel sad. Robert was no help either. He had given up and said, "There's nothing we can do to stop it now. Let's just give up." I also felt it was pointless to fight against the situation. We finalized the blueprint for the duplex and started choosing things like tiles and flooring. At this point, we should have secured the funds for the house, but the money my in-laws promised was missing. Robert called his mother to ask about the money, but she said something had come up and needed money right away. She asked if we could cover it and promised to pay us back in a month. We felt frustrated because even though they couldn't pay now, Their project was already moving forward, and we couldn't cancel it. Robert and I could barely afford it ourselves, but we didn't think we should have to. We were angry at my in-laws for being so selfish. "You act like it's just a small amount," Robert yelled at his mother. "She promised to pay it back in a month." "Has she ever lied to you?" Suddenly, my brother-in-law interrupted. Hearing this made Robert agree to wait for the money and start waiting for his mother's transfer. I decided to talk to my parents about it. The next day, I went to my parents' house and explained what was happening. I wondered if we could put the plans on hold. They said, "We were going to give you that land anyway, so if they promise to pay later, we'll cover the costs." "Really? Are you sure?" I asked. "Of course, dear. Your happiness is what matters to us. Don't give up on your dream house for the sake of your future children. Don't let this multi-family plan happen," they said. I was so grateful I almost cried. My mom smiled and added, "Plus, if they're always around, it'll be hard for me to visit. I want all the grandkids to myself." With my parents' help, the construction went ahead as planned, and finally, our dream home was finished. But a month later, we still hadn't received any money from my mother-in-law. Meanwhile, she started moving her things in before we could. It was strange, a duplex with no room for us. Since they didn't send the money, we didn't build a separate room for her, but she began moving her stuff into the room we had planned for our future children. To make matters worse, she invited her friends over for a housewarming party and started showing them around the house. It's our dream duplex. It's a bit small, but we have a wonderful garden. We can even plant a vegetable garden, and once the veggies are ready, I'll share some with you, my mother-in-law said, as if they had built the house with their own money. Her friends, not knowing the situation, complimented the house before leaving. After they moved in and things settled down, 2 months passed, and we still hadn't received any money from my in-laws. Robert confronted them, but they kept saying, "Soon, very soon." However, 3 months and even half a year went by, and nothing changed. Then one day, my mother-in-law announced, "We decided not to sell our house. Instead, we'll have Mark and his kids live there," clearly stating she wouldn't pay us anything. I wasn't surprised, though. Robert and I often talked about how she probably never intended to pay. "Oh, I just noticed the house feels cramped when you both are living there. Can you move out? I have friends who sometimes want to stay over, and I want to be able to use the place freely. Doesn't that sound good?" she asked. Robert raised his voice slightly and said, "That's not the deal. Why should we leave our own house?" She replied, "Well, both of you are working and hardly ever at home, and since you don't have any kids, it shouldn't be a problem. Besides, Lisa's family is rich, right? You can afford to build a new house." I was shocked by her outrageous words, and Robert felt the same way. "First of all, you haven't paid any of the expenses like you promised. If you're not selling the house, then you never intended to pay from the start, right? What can I do? I decided to let Mark, who's a single father, live there. What's wrong with giving a house to my own son and his kids?" she snapped, getting more irritated. It seemed unlikely things would improve, so Robert and I decided to talk about it in our bedroom that night. "If this keeps going on, my mother and her family will definitely try to kick us out and take over the house," I said. "Yeah, I suppose so," Robert replied. From the next day on, my mother-in-law continued her attacks, making nasty comments and harassing me. "If you don't want to be bullied as a daughter-in-law, you better move out quickly." I thought I wouldn't have to deal with mother-in-law and daughter-in-law problems, but experiencing them firsthand turned out to be more troublesome than I imagined. When we were living in that small room, we barely interacted with my mother-in-law. Maybe it was foolish of me not to see how things would turn out. However, since I believe in giving back as good as I get, I decided to make a plan. A month later, my husband, his parents, his grandfather, and I came up with a plan. My husband told my mother-in-law, "We're moving out. You can invite your friends over whenever you want. You'll be happier that way." The moment she heard this, her face lit up with joy. We decided to move to a newly built apartment we had been looking at, which reminded us of our newlywed days. We returned to renting, and it felt peaceful, just like when we were first married. A week later, the phone rang. I overheard my husband say, "I see, that's great. Bye." I was sure our plan had worked. The day after we made our plan with my parents and grandfather, We put our house up for sale and found a buyer who wanted us to move out in 3 weeks. While my mother-in-law was away, we let acquaintances and colleagues come to see the house. Today's phone call was about the family who decided to buy it. We arranged for 2 large trucks and had the movers quickly load our belongings and furniture. We carefully timed everything for when my in-laws said they were going to a theme park in New York over the weekend with their grandsons. They mentioned they would stay overnight, which was our chance. Everything went smoothly. The professional movers packed for us, and it was done much faster than we expected. We waited in front of the house for my in-laws to return. When they arrived in the evening, they seemed tense, sensing something was off. My mother-in-law, looking anxious, entered the house and screamed, "What is this? What happened? Where are all our things?" My father-in-law was also making a fuss. Robert and I calmly watched them from outside, and when they came out, we revealed the truth. Robert said, "Everything is loaded on these trucks. The destination is noted on a piece of paper stuck to the trucks, so please go there. It might be a bit small, but it's enough for the 2 of you to live in. It might get cramped if you invite friends over. Also, this house has already been sold. It's someone else's property now. Take care." My in-laws were shocked. "What do you mean you put it up for sale? It was our house. You can't just sell our house." I responded, "The property is in Lisa's parents' name, but the house is in our name. We are the owners, so we have the right to sell it. You should be ashamed to call it your house when you haven't paid a single dollar for it." Robert's unexpected words made my in-laws fall silent. Before we left, he said, "We've taken care of things until now, but you'll have to unload everything yourselves. You can afford that, can't you?" They replied, "We don't have that kind of money." Robert continued, "I know you must have some money. You've been selling things you took from Lisa and depositing the money in your bank account." "How did you know that?" they asked. "Does it matter?" "Oh, and you don't have to pay us back. Consider it severance pay. Use it however you like. Now we'll be off. I doubt we'll meet again." With that, Robert declared severance to his parents, took my hand, and we hurried home. We called our parents and grandparents to share the news of our successful plan, and they were very happy for us. My grandfather, knowing we were going to live in an apartment, said, "Actually, I still have some land left. I'll give it to you too, and I'll cover half the costs so you can build a new house." And that's exactly what we did. Half a year later, we completed our dream of building a brand new single-family home. It was a bit farther from the city center, but the air was fresh, the neighbors were kind, and we were very happy. As for my in-laws, we didn't know if they went to the address we provided. They contacted my parents for financial help and asked Robert's brother, who was planning to remarry next year, if they could live with him. He flatly refused because his new wife also wanted to move in. My parents decisively turned them down and told them not to involve our family anymore. Robert apologized to my parents for his terrible parents, but they said, "From now on, we're your real parents. Feel free to rely on us as much as you want." Thinking about future problems, my parents recommended we install a home security system. We could rest easy knowing they would turn away Robert's parents if they ever showed up. We also got a small, cute puppy as a guard dog in our yard, and I highly doubted his parents would have the guts to intrude. From now on, we wouldn't have to deal with Robert's parents at all. It was the beginning of a new life for the 2 of us. We planned to have children in a few years and build a happy family. We promised each other we wouldn't let anyone disturb our happiness.
"Cassie, darling, sit down for a moment," Joel asked his wife. "You've been running around like a bee over flowers since this morning. I think you're too worried." Joel Hillman put his arm around his beloved wife's shoulders. The 36-year-old businessman was crazy about her beauty and intelligence, but sometimes thought she should rest more. "Joel, I can't sit down," the young woman retorted with a laugh. "Everything must be perfect for our guests. After all, they have come to congratulate us on our anniversary. We can't disappoint them." The husband buried his face in Cassie's marvellous wheat-coloured silky hair. "You're so meticulous, sweetheart. It's a good thing you're just as meticulous about your work too. At least all the people who live and work in buildings designed by you certainly don't have to worry about their safety." "Don't tease me." Cassie touched the tip of Joel's nose with a smile. "Come on, we should be serving dessert soon. I want to stop by the kitchen to check on the cook." The lovebirds emerged from under the wide awning on the veranda and went off in different directions. Joel went back to the guests, and Cassie to a small annex where they were preparing a cake and ice cream for their party. It was already the 3rd anniversary of their wedding, and although some of the couple's friends thought it was too early to organise such a lavish celebration, Cassie had a different opinion. For her, every day spent with Joel was a part of a huge happy life where she felt loved and needed in her small but wonderful family. Cassie checked the work of a specially hired pastry chef from the restaurant and, satisfied with the result, went back to the wide and long table set in the middle of their large and bright yard. The smartly dressed guests drank and ate, occasionally making loud toasts to the health of the young couple. Cassie's best friend Amanda, whom she had known since childhood, stood bored, not far from the table, sipping a sweet cocktail through a straw. "Why are you standing here alone?" Cassie, who had come close to her, asked. The girl flinched and almost spilled the drink. Immersed in her thoughts, she did not immediately notice her friend. "Cassie, you scared me," she said. "I'm sorry." Cassie touched her shoulder. "I noticed you weren't with the other guests, so I thought, what if something happened?" Amanda only shrugged. "No, nothing happened," she said, stirring the rest of the ice and cocktail in her glass with her straw. "Except half an hour ago, Paul called and announced with fanfare that he was dumping me." "What?" marvelled Cassie. "Amanda, are you sure you got it right? You've been dating for a year. Why would he dump you like this over the phone? That's so low." Amanda looked at Cassie, tears glistening in her eyes. "I don't know, Cassie. It seems that not everyone can have such an ideal marriage like you and Joel," she sobbed. "What a shame. You know, he couldn't even explain why we're splitting up. Cassie, I feel so bad right now." Amanda couldn't take it anymore and laid her head on her friend's shoulder, crying bitterly. "Well, hush, hush," Cassie soothed her, stroking her back. "Do you want me to call this scoundrel right now and tell him everything for you?" Amanda broke away from her friend and, wiping tears from her face, looked gratefully into Cassie's eyes. "Thank you, my dear, but no need. Let's not give this bastard such pleasure." Amanda tried to blot her eyelashes with a napkin, but realised it was useless. "You see, I've already lost the last of my self-respect because of him. I'm standing here, crying like a fool, but I really believed he'd marry me, you know? I thought we'd have everything like you and Joel, that we would love each other, understand each other, that he would carry me in his arms." Amanda cried again, unable to withstand the feelings that came over her. Cassie, with great difficulty, was able to calm her friend, and then escorted her to the bathroom so she could fix her makeup. "If you like, I can call you a cab," Amanda told her from behind the door. "After all, you don't have to sit here all night and act happy when you're feeling so down." There was a slight rustling in the bathroom, and in a minute her best friend reappeared in front of her. Only her slightly reddened eyes spoke of the fact that she had been crying recently, but unless you looked closely, it was almost impossible to notice from the outside. "Don't worry, I'm fine," Amanda said with a dazzling smile. "We'd better go dancing. You're going to have a dance, aren't you?" Cassie was a little embarrassed. She wasn't prepared for her friend's mood to change so drastically. "Well, yes, of course," she replied. At that moment, Joel suddenly appeared nearby. "Cassie, where are you? We've already lost you." Noticing that she was talking to Amanda and seeing her look instantly turn from cheerful to sad, her husband asked what had happened. "Nothing much, dear," Cassie answered him with a sad smile. "Just a woman's talk. We girls always have something to talk about." "Paul left me," suddenly blurted out an upset Amanda, and again pressed her hands to her face. Cassie looked at her friend in amazement, not understanding why she was telling her husband this. "Oh," said Joel, embarrassed. "Well, that's terrible news. You've been going out for a long time, almost a year, I think." "More," Amanda sobbed. "I still can't understand why he did that to me. Why?" Cassie stared at Amanda with bewildered eyes, but she didn't seem to notice. "If you and Cassie only knew how dear you are to me," Amanda continued, almost crying. "You are my very best friends. Cassie is so comforting and supportive. After all, I never hid from her that I always dreamed of a husband like you." Joel shifted his perplexed gaze from Amanda to Cassie. "And I thought I had found such a one in Paul," continued Amanda. "But as it turned out, I was wrong. He's just a scoundrel like most men. Forgive me for spilling it all out to you like this, but I have no one else to talk to. My parents are so far away. I'm all alone here. I have no one but you and Cassie." Without asking permission, Amanda fell into Joel's arms and burst into even louder tears. Joel, however, resolutely understood nothing, but was very embarrassed. He furtively glanced at his wife, not knowing how to behave, but she only nodded, indicating that everything was normal. Then Joel carefully pulled Amanda away from him and said, "Amanda, please don't get so upset. You will definitely meet a man worthy of you. Cassie and I didn't meet right away either. Before that, we each had our own lives with unsuccessful romances. This, alas, happens to almost everyone. It's impossible to avoid failure altogether, including in love." Amanda looked Joel straight in the eyes, so attentively that it seemed to him that she was scanning him, trying to reach the farthest corners of his soul. It lasted only a few seconds before it was abruptly interrupted by his wife's loud voice. "Amanda just had too much to drink tonight and got very upset," said Cassie meaningfully, and looked at her spouse, so he had no doubts. She was jealous of him, jealous of her best friend. Cassie tried to chase away these thoughts, but couldn't help but admit that the worm of jealousy still moved in her soul when she saw how Amanda purposefully threw herself at her husband. However, she tried to explain everything logically. Amanda must have been affected by the cocktail, coupled with the stress she had been under. The rest of the evening went fine, and Cassie almost forgot about her friend's strange behaviour, although some residue in her soul remained. "Honey, are you all right?" Joel cautiously asked in the evening, once all the guests had left and he and his wife were alone. "Why do you ask?" Cassie responded. "It seemed to me that you were very upset," Joel replied, removing his expensive watch. "I thought it had something to do with Amanda's behaviour." Cassie smiled, true, a little sadly, and touched her lover's face. "Don't worry, Joel, I guess I did overreact emotionally, but Amanda had never behaved like that before, which is why I was confused." Joel looked at his wife, and a sly light lit up in his eyes. "Do you know that when you're jealous, you look just peachy, like a tigress ready to claw her rival's eyes out?" Cassie laughed and playfully poked her husband in the shoulder. "Stop it. I wasn't jealous of you." Cassie tried to sound as confident as possible. "Anyway, I certainly can't be jealous of you with Amanda. She's my best friend. She would never betray me." But as she uttered the last words, Cassie felt a tiny prick of doubt. She had seen what Amanda had done. Could she trust her completely after that? The rest of the night, Cassie spent in anxiety and doubts, unable to sleep. Should she be worried, or was the whole situation worthless? Also, memories from the past came to her, shaky and fragile, like a haze. They brought Cassie back to the days when she had just met Joel. Cassie was born into a well-to-do family. Her parents were engaged in advertising. She grew up without needing anything. Growing up in love and care, Cassie was always characterized by diligence and a love for intellectual and physical labor. Together with her mother, she could spend days in their garden. Also, Cassie was always distinguished by excellent knowledge of mathematics and drawing, abilities that revealed themselves at a very early age. After graduating from school with honours, Cassie realised her long-time dream and entered the architectural school. Cassie spent the next few years digging deeply into her studies, and for good reason. In her final year, she was invited to be an assistant to the chief architect of a well-respected architectural office in the city. It seemed to Cassie that her most important dream had finally come true. Throughout her life, Cassie was always accompanied by Amanda. Her best friend followed her like a shadow. Although Amanda studied at the same college as Cassie, she didn't excel as much. Cassie often told Amanda that she simply lacked the ability to concentrate fully on her chosen profession. In response, Amanda only grinned. "Believe me, Cassie, I have a lot of concentration when necessary. It's just that I never wanted to spend several years at the college. I have other plans for my life, you know. If it weren't for my parents, who believe that you can't get anywhere without an education, I would have given up this nonsense with design in the first year." This confession embarrassed Cassie a little. She had pursued her dream all her life on her own, despite her family's wealth. Cassie hadn't used a penny from her savings account for her education. She had achieved everything through her own intelligence and hard work. It was incomprehensible to her why Amanda, who grew up in a family of ordinary military officer and nurse, was uninterested in studying and didn't want to achieve any professional success. "What do you dream of, then?" Cassie asked her friend when they were sitting in a cafe during their third year at the college. Amanda looked at her with undisguised triumph. "I want my husband to fulfill my every wish." Cassie skeptically raised her eyebrows. "Husband? But you're not even dating anyone," she said in surprise. Amanda's lips curled into a satisfied smile. She leaned closer to Cassie and said softly, "What am I talking about? To find such a husband you have to try hard, Cassie. I don't want to work till old age like my parents did." Amanda wrinkled her nose contemptuously and made a gesture of extreme disagreement with her hands. "I need a man who will make me feel like a queen, you know? Someone who will be satisfied that I, young, beautiful and cheerful, choose him out of hundreds of others." Cassie didn't say anything to Amanda then. After all, it was Amanda's life, and she had no moral right to interfere. But to Cassie, such a perspective seemed extremely strange, so she never brought up the topic again with her friend. Of course, in the future, Cassie had to listen to many of Amanda's tearful hysterics after her rich suitors left her. Although Amanda blamed everything on the men, Cassie suspected it wasn't just their fault. Cassie herself never let her feelings override her reason, so she was alone for a long time. Short relationships never turned serious, and young men she dated were constantly dissatisfied with her passion for work. People often called her a careerist. Cassie had come to terms with this until one day her life turned upside down. Cassie had the honour of representing her company at the construction forum. There she met her future husband. Joel Hillman was a businessman who, in his 30s, already owned one of the largest construction firms in the country. He noticed the 3D model of the sports complex, designed by Cassie from afar, and immediately approached her stand. After studying the layout details, he looked at the young architect with admiration. "I understand correctly that you are the architect who created this sports complex?" Cassie was embarrassed but tried to maintain her professional demeanour, flattered by his sincere interest in her work. "Yes, this is my project. You're right. Do you like it?" Cassie asked timidly. Joel immersed himself in contemplation of the layout. "You know, I would invest in such a complex if I was 100% sure it would exclusively be used for sports events." "But it's not just a place for competitions," Cassie objected passionately. "It's a place where everyone can join sports and feel part of something bigger. Look, She turned the model to show a huge niche in the upper left part. This is where 24 halls will be located. 1 hall, 1 section. This solves the problem of lack of space and offers various activities. Young children can practice here, and this part is for older kids and school-age children. Cassie explained her sports centre with such passion and knowledge that Joel was fascinated by this wonderful young woman, able to communicate her ideas so clearly and with such strong feeling to potential sponsors. "I think you're the most amazing woman I've ever met in my entire life," he blurted out in the end. Cassie looked at him perplexed. She blushed while talking, and her hair stuck out in different directions from constantly touching it during the presentation. "What?" was all she could say. Her radiant gaze brought the businessman back from heaven to earth. Joel immediately coughed, not knowing how to hide the resulting awkwardness. "I'm sorry, I meant that the depth of your ideas is mesmerizing. Here, take my business card and let me have yours. I would like to participate in the realization of this project. Our city sorely lacks truly modern places." It seemed to the girl that she blushed even more. However, she only silently handed him her business card and the booklet of their architectural bureau. Giving his card with his contacts, Joel hurried to another stand, but for the rest of the day he couldn't stop thinking about Cassie. The next morning, when the young architect sat in her office working on sketches, there was a sudden knock at the door. "It's open," the girl shouted, tearing her gaze away from the desk. To her amazement, a courier entered, carrying a huge basket of fresh flowers. The most remarkable thing was that there was no banal roses or lilies. The arrangement was made of rare wildflowers, framed by white and delicate coral peonies. "My God, from whom is this?" gasped the girl as the courier held out a form to her. "Alas, the sender wished to remain anonymous," shrugged the courier, "but a card was left in the bouquet for you. Maybe it will help clarify things a bit for you." The courier smiled, and after receiving Cassie's signed form, left her office, wishing her a good day. Cassie replied in kind, and once he disappeared, she rushed to get the card from the flowers. Shortly, she held a small purple card in the shape of a heart, inside which was written a brief message with a black fountain pen. "My soul, my heart, belongs now only to you." Cassie frowned, puzzled by what it could mean. There was no signature on the card, and she didn't recall making any new acquaintances recently. At that moment, her cell phone began to ring. She glanced at the display, but the number was unfamiliar. "Hello?" Cassie spoke into the receiver. "Who is it?" A few seconds of confused silence followed, and then a familiar male voice said, "Cassie, did you get the flowers?" The woman felt the blood rush sharply to her face. "Oh, it's you," she said in a trembling voice. "You recognized me?" It seemed to Cassie that she heard similar worried notes in the man's voice. For the next 40 minutes, Joel and Cassie talked heart to heart, paying no attention to anything else. It was as if the world around them ceased to exist. So engrossed were they in each other's company. In the end, Joel dared to invite Cassie to the theatre, where a fashionable play with famous actors was scheduled. "I haven't been to the theatre in ages," Cassie rejoiced involuntarily. "I'll be glad to join you." "Really? Then I'll book tickets for us tonight, and if you allow me, I'll pick you up in the evening before the show." Cassie glanced at herself in her pocket mirror and saw her cheeks flush. She still couldn't believe she was going on a date, the first one in a couple of years. Inside, she felt a tiny sprout of future bright feelings slowly blossom in her heart. On the day of the meeting, Cassie wore her most beautiful dress. Normally, she wore business suits and jeans. After arranging her hair in a lovely high hairstyle, she took one last critical look at her image in the mirror. Satisfied that everything was perfect, Cassie went down the elevator and walked out of the doorway. Joel was already waiting for her on the street. That day, he let his chauffeur go early and sat behind the wheel himself. Just looking at the embarrassed Cassie, Joel almost lost the power of speech. He had never met such a beautiful, intelligent, and purposeful woman. Cassie had finally won his heart, and that evening Joel promised himself to do everything to make Cassie his lawful wife. The date was perfect. That day, the young architect felt a real, sincere affection growing between her and Joel. Their next meeting only strengthened Cassie's assumption. She realized she was truly important to Joel. The man turned out to be very caring and attentive. Soon, their relationship reached a new level, transforming into a beautiful romance. They dated for more than half a year before Joel made his beloved an offer. He ordered 2 tickets to Venice for the annual carnival. There, in the middle of a colourful crowd, dressed in amazing outfits and masks, Joel knelt before Cassie and handed her a tiny velvet box containing a charming gold ring with a large, pale pink diamond. "Joel!" gasped Cassie, pressing her hands to her face. She had never seen such beauty in her life. "Is it really what I think it is?" The look in her fiancé's light brown eyes said it all more eloquently than words. "Will you become my wife?" asked Joel timidly, as if he couldn't fully believe Cassie would agree. "Darling, of course, yes!" exclaimed Cassie, and threw herself into her lover's arms. Joel couldn't find the right words to express his joy. Instead, he gently took his bride's hand and slowly put a stunning ring on her thin, fragile finger. "You are my happiness, Cassie," he said quietly. "I swear you'll never regret agreeing to this. I love you so much." Cassie laughed loudly and merrily, wrapping her long arms around Joel's neck. "If you only knew the depth of my feelings for you," she said dreamily. "I know it's customary to say such things at the ceremony itself, but I'm not superstitious. So, Joel, I swear to you, nothing will ever separate us until my last breath." Cassie kissed her groom, putting all her love and devotion into the kiss. The couple celebrated their wedding outside the city, in a beautiful recreation complex. Guests sat on 24 benches, covered with flowers and colourful, inflatable balloons. In the centre of the glade, where the ceremony took place, a magical arch was set up, adorned with flowers and transparent ribbons. Cassie wore a magnificent wedding dress, specially made for her by a famous Italian couturier. She looked like a real movie star, so elegant and detailed was her appearance. Among the guests was Cassie's best friend Amanda, who was a bridesmaid. On the day of the celebration, Cassie was so absorbed in her own happiness that she didn't notice what her friend was up to. And she should have. Amanda was intently and greedily watching only one man, Joel. Cassie woke up sharply, convulsively squeezing her hands. She couldn't immediately realize what was happening. She had dreamed of Amanda's eyes, full of hatred and passion, but she still couldn't understand who her friend was looking at with such cruel feelings. Cassie looked at the clock on the bedside table. It was 7 in the morning. She turned to see her beloved husband's face. Joel was sleeping sweetly with a soft smile. He was obviously dreaming something pleasant. It was the day after their anniversary celebration. Cassie was full of anxious thoughts and worried about Amanda. Was she okay? At the same time, she slept poorly, haunted by memories. As soon as Cassie got out of bed, she tried to be quiet so as not to wake her husband. She immediately felt strong nausea and dizziness. She miraculously managed to run to the bathroom. Has it finally happened? Cassie thought aloud while brushing her teeth. Joel and I have waited so long. Cassie put her hand on her flat belly. She and Joel had been married for 3 years and hadn't had children yet. Maybe her prayers had been answered, and the Lord had sent them a long-awaited baby. But the test was negative. As she left the bathroom, she felt lightheaded again. The next day, Cassie tried to concentrate on work, but it was difficult. Constant nausea and a strong headache in the evening worsened it. After struggling through the workday, she went home. After suffering for a few more days, Cassie decided to see the doctor. The doctor, barely glancing at her blood test results, looked at her with concern. "Let's do an MRI, Cassie," the doctor said cautiously. "I want to make sure there hasn't been a mistake." "Is it that bad?" Cassie asked, turning pale. "I don't know yet. That's why I'm prescribing this procedure," the doctor said. "But don't worry prematurely, it might not be that bad." Cassie looked carefully at the doctor, making the referral on the computer. "So I'm not having a baby?" The doctor looked at her sympathetically. "I'm afraid you're not pregnant. There's clearly something else and we need to find out as soon as possible." The MRI procedure was very difficult for Cassie. She felt like the machine would crush her in its deadly embrace. It was just a panic attack caused by constant headache and stress, but knowing this didn't make it any easier for Cassie. "Well, what is it, doctor?" she asked impatiently when all the scans and test transcripts reached her attending physician. The doctor couldn't tear himself away from studying the scans for a long time. Then he looked at the woman with sincere regret. "I'm afraid I have bad news," the doctor exhaled noisily. "The fact is that you have a tumour in your brain. I'm very sorry. The MRI shows that this tumour is in a non-surgical location. Treatment is possible, but its effectiveness, you understand. In any case, you need to go to the oncology department urgently, because without treatment, you have no more than 6 months." "What?" was all Cassie could say. She couldn't believe her ears. "What tumour? What are you talking about? I'm only 34, and I've never had any health problems before." The doctor peacefully threw up his hands. "Calm down, please. I understand that you are now driven by shock and refusal to accept this situation, but understand, this is how it is sometimes. People don't know until the last minute that they're sick. Diseases like this are very insidious." Cassie could feel herself starting to choke. This office was clearly short of air. "Thank you, doctor," she said, "for your honesty and for not feeling sorry for me. After all, I need cold reason far more than any pity or supposed sympathy." Leaving the hospital, Cassie got into her car. She sat motionless for several long minutes, then burst into bitter tears. She could not imagine that her life would be cut short so soon and so ridiculously, all because of some tumour. Even through her tears, Cassie couldn't help but feel her head start to ache again, and the pain was getting worse by the minute. After swallowing 2 pills of a powerful painkiller, Cassie slowly pressed the gas pedal and went home. Her life seemed to be divided into before and after. She needed to gather her thoughts, to decide how to proceed under the current circumstances. Life had lost all colour for her. "What's it all for, if I can die, gone in a few months?" she asked herself. The woman was afraid of the moment where she would have to tell Joel about everything. She loved him too much to strike such a blow at the news of her possible death. Cassie also could not endure pity from her most important and closest person. Of course, Joel noticed the change in his wife's mood right away, and he could not understand the reasons for it. "Cassie, please, let's talk," Joel asked. "I can see that something happened. You've completely cooled off toward me. What's the reason? Did I do something wrong? How did I offend you?" Cassie looked at her husband, and her eyes shone with only sadness and sorrow. "It's not about you at all, darling." Cassie tried to evade the answer. "What is it about then?" Joel asked, perplexed. "Joel, I can't say. I need to think over first." She finally gave up and locked herself in her room. Joel could not get a clear answer to his questions, leading him to have more frequent doubts about her fidelity. Does she have a lover on the side, and I know nothing about it? What if she cheated on me and now repents, but can't admit it because she's ashamed? All these thoughts began to revolve in his mind, generating many suspicions. After a week of such worry and reflection, Joel decided to turn to Amanda, hoping to find out about Cassie's condition. Having agreed to meet his wife's friend in a cafe, he immediately counted the minutes on his wristwatch waiting for her. To his surprise, Amanda showed up, looking as if she were going on a date. A short, bold dress, playful styling and bright makeup. Everything about her appearance told Joel she clearly wanted to please him. This turn of events somewhat embarrassed Joel, but he pretended not to notice Amanda's efforts. "Joel, did something serious happen?" the girl asked carefully, sitting down at the table. "You sounded so excited on the phone." "Yes," Joel began, coughing. "Amanda, tell me, have you noticed anything unusual in Cassie's behaviour lately?" Amanda only wrinkled her smooth forehead in response. "What do you mean?" she asked, confused. "You see," Joel hesitated, unsure how to approach the delicate subject. "Cassie has become too withdrawn. She almost doesn't talk to me, and I thought—" "What?" Amanda raised an eyebrow meaningfully. I thought she might have—" "Someone else?" A satisfied smile blossomed on Amanda's face. "So you think our Cassie has a lover or something?" Joel could have sworn he saw joy and triumph in his wife's best friend's eyes. "I'm not sure of that," he added quickly. "Maybe it's something else altogether, but she's stopped talking to me. I thought she might have told you about it. Cassie said you and she are like sisters, right?" Amanda nodded. "That's right. Cassie's like my own sister, even closer, but she never told me anything about this. She never even hinted that she might have someone else. She's always loved only you, Joel. You are everything to her." Joel noticed how Amanda modestly lowered her eyes and bit her lower lip. Her gestures seemed to say the opposite, as if she knew something she didn't dare tell Joel. She praised her friend as if trying to protect her, according to her bewildered husband. "Amanda," Joel looked trustingly into her eyes, "if you have something to tell me, I promise you, Cassie will know nothing. But I must know for sure if she really has another man. You don't have to make excuses for her, no matter how close you are. This is different." Amanda raised her hypnotic dark eyes to him, and then placed her palm dramatically on his hand. "Joel, you're right. I should have told you everything much earlier." Amanda hesitated slightly, but then continued. "Cassie behaves the same way with me. She doesn't say anything. But when we talk, it's as if she doesn't hear me. As if she's always on her own wavelength and doesn't notice I'm around. It's like she's lost." Amanda stopped, unsure if she should go on. "And?" Joel encouraged. "What do you think about that?" The girl looked at him and sighed. "I think she's constantly in dreams about something or someone, but I can't say for sure, since Cassie hasn't told me anything specific either." Joel turned pale, as if hit in the gut. If Cassie had betrayed him, he would have to find out from her personally. "Thank you, Amanda. You're a good friend," Joel said slowly. "I understand it wasn't easy for you to voice your suspicions to me." "What are you, Joel?" the girl exclaimed, and squeezed his hand. "I'm just very anxious about Cassie. She is so sensitive, though she tries to seem strong all the time. Joel quickly said goodbye to Amanda and, releasing her hand, hurried out of the cafe. Getting into the car, he involuntarily thought about how strangely Amanda had behaved. She seemed to sincerely sympathize with him, but there was some strange sensuality in it that Joel couldn't explain. More precisely, he had long guessed what he liked, but had never shown it so openly and boldly. In any case, now is not the time to think about it. Joel pondered. I need to meet Cassie and finally find out from her what's going on between us. However, to Joel's great disappointment, his wife was not at home when he arrived. This seemed very strange to him. Usually at this time, Cassie was already waiting for him. He didn't know what to think. The man called his wife on her cell phone, but she didn't pick up. Going upstairs, Joel found a note in the bedroom. On a small piece of paper, Cassie wrote the following. Dear Joel, I really want you to understand me correctly. I have some unhappy times ahead of me, and before that, I want to be alone and be a part of nature. I'm going on a retreat to the mountains for a week. Please don't call me or try to find me. I'm purposely not telling you exactly where I'm going. I need to be alone. I have a lot to think about. Perhaps after that, I will come and tell you everything. For now, try to understand me and don't hold a grudge against me. I have always loved you and will always love you. Your Cassie. Joel felt bitter tears well up in his eyes. Crumpling the note, he tossed it forcefully into the trash can. He expected anything from his wife, but not this. How could you? He asked Cassie. How could you leave me and run away? Do I deserve to be treated like this? Fearing that Cassie had gone to the mountains with her new lover, Joel first tried to find out exactly where his spouse had gone. He searched through all the papers in his beloved study, but found nothing. Each passing minute filled Joel's heart with more despair and longing. What if she doesn't come back? What if she decides to stay with that other man forever? What should I do then? How can I live without her? Feeling more humiliated than ever, trampled by his emotions, Joel pulled a bottle of strong whiskey from his minibar. He spent the entire evening drinking glass after glass. His soul was crying out, torn apart by the thought of where Cassie was. The only woman he truly loved was at that moment. The next few days, Joel lived on edge. He kept trying to contact Cassie, but her phone was always unavailable. Finally, he got angry and gave up, deciding that if his wife wanted to contact him, she would do it herself. Joel did not want to be humiliated any longer and threw himself into his work. 3 days later, Joel was awakened in the middle of the night by an unexpected call. "Hello?" he said sleepily. "Who is it?" "Mr. Hillman?" a low male voice asked. "It's Sergeant Mendes speaking." "What? The police?" Joel instantly woke up and sat up in bed. "What's wrong?" "It's about your wife, Cassie Hillman." Joel felt drops of cold sweat appear on his forehead. "Where is she? She hasn't contacted me for almost a week. Can you tell me what's wrong with her? Is she okay?" The silence on the other end made Joel jump out of bed and pace the room. "Well, what is it? Don't be silent. Tell me what's wrong with my wife." "We have reason to believe that Cassie Hillman is dead." "What?" Joel thought he'd misheard. "What did you say?" "Calm down, Mr. Hillman. Your hysteria is useless right now," Mendes said calmly. "The tourist center where your wife was staying was hit by an avalanche yesterday morning. At this point, rescuers have found and saved almost all the members of the group except your wife. There are witnesses who saw that, shortly before the avalanche, your wife left the main building and went for a walk along the river. She was never seen again. Her body has not yet been found. However, we think she may have been swept into the mountain river. The current is very strong, so most likely the rescuers will not be able to find her remains for a long time." "Remains?" Joel asked in a choked voice. "What remains? Do you realize what you're saying? It can't be. My wife is alive, do you understand? Cassie can't die. She can't. Mr. Hillman, you're in shock, I understand. It is difficult for you to come to terms with this tragedy. The police officer tried to comfort Joel. Let me send you the coordinates of the place where the avalanche occurred. You can come and see for yourself how the search is going. Our team is searching through the area. They will keep looking for your wife, don't doubt it. It seemed to Joel that the captain's words came from another reality. Everything that was happening felt like a terrible dream, a nightmare that would end the moment Cassie walked through the door and looked at Joel with her beautiful bright eyes. The experts have established that your wife went over there at the lowest point of the slope, Mendes explained. There is a river just below, not far from this place. Most of the snow from the avalanche has fallen into it. That's why we think she may have ended up in the water. No, Joel shook his head. I don't believe Cassie is gone. She is a fighter by nature. She wouldn't let herself die. Look for her. If you need money for extra expenses, just call me. I will transfer the full amount needed immediately. Mendes looked at the man as if he were insane, but did not argue. He himself was sure that Cassie Hillman had died almost instantly. But if this rich man wanted to prolong his hope of his wife's return, let him pay. The long days dragged on, with Joel constantly expecting a call from the rescuers or the police. He worked almost automatically, as all his thoughts were consumed by the question, was Cassie alive, or was he hoping in vain? Joel kept wondering why she went on that hike, and what she wanted to prove. Thoughts of a possible lover had long left him, because even if she had one, he was likely buried under the cold, indifferent snow. Weeks passed, with no news about Cassie. 4.5 months later, Cassie Hillman was formally declared dead. No amount of money helped Joel find even her remains. The funeral he arranged was purely symbolic, burying an empty urn, along with his last hope of seeing Cassie again. During and after the funeral, Amanda was constantly by Joel's side. She was very caring and attentive, trying to help Joel cope with his loss. Joel's heart was broken, and Amanda gradually became his most understanding and supportive companion. It took Joel a long time to recover. During this period, Amanda never once blamed Cassie for going on the hike, or for the alienation and coldness of the last days of life. To Amanda, Cassie was like a saint, and Joel deeply respected her desire to remember only the good about the deceased. As time passed, Joel realized that every day without her seemed less bright. Of course, at first he thought that he just got used to the girl. But then, having analyzed the whole situation, he came to the conclusion that he should thank her for all the good that she had managed to do for him. Amanda, thank you for all you do, and helping me through this grief that has befallen me and you, Joel told her one day, sitting in his living room with her. I don't know how I can ever thank you enough. Tell me what you want. I'll do anything for you. Cassie loved you, and now you're the closest thing I have to a friend. Joel, Cassie is forever in my heart. You're right, but grief has brought us closer together. You're the closest person to me right now, too, and I can finally admit that I've always loved you. I've loved you for so long that I thought I'd die an old maid. I couldn't look at anyone but you, I swear. Cassie would approve of our marriage, I'm sure. Joel looked at her in bewilderment, shock and surprise. Do you really think so? He asked cautiously. I feel she would very much like it, that the two people closest to her remained together, saved each other in the boundless ocean of loneliness and heart emptiness. With these words, Amanda leaned to Joel and kissed him. Joel was so shocked that it was only after a few seconds that he was able to pull away from her. Amanda, I'm sorry I can't. I know you're right about a lot of things, but it's been too little time, and I don't love you. I love Cassie. It wouldn't be fair to you. You're a wonderful woman and you deserve a man who will really love you and who won't suffer for his dead wife." Amanda lowered her head as if she were upset and hurt, but in fact she was furious. And being a virtuoso at hiding her true feelings, in a second she looked up in Joel's eyes with devotion, meek and submissive. "Whatever you say, Joel, but let me keep coming to you, cooking for you, caring for you, doing what Cassie did. That way I'm dealing with the pain of loss too, and maybe that way you'll see me as something more than your wife's friend." Life went on. Amanda no longer let herself make advances on Joel. As for him, he was glad she calmed down and accepted his decision. He also gave her the keys to his house, and now Amanda came over and cooked dinner for the two of them. He also gave her the keys to his house, and now Amanda would come over on Fridays in the middle of the day and cook dinner for the two of them. It was their time where they shared news, reminisced about Cassie, and generally supported each other. And then one day, Joel saw Amanda's anger for the first time. It was Friday when Amanda was cooking dinner for them together. After coming home from work, Joel dropped his things in the hallway, shouted to Amanda that he'd be there soon, and went upstairs to change. But when he came downstairs, he saw Amanda in the hallway. She didn't see him, absorbed in her own thoughts, but in the mirror he could see her face, twisted with an angry expression, and her fists clenched. "What's wrong?" Joel asked excitedly. "Oh, nothing," Amanda replied with a gentle smile. "Nothing special. Just an unpleasant call from the past." Joel did not pay much attention to her words, but noted that Amanda was slightly nervous for the rest of the evening. A month later, Joel hurried in his car to the office for a business meeting. Suddenly he saw an elderly gypsy woman. It was a red light for her, but she was obviously deep in thought and mistakenly took a fatal step from the sidewalk onto the road. Joel needed all his driving skills to brake in time and avoid harming her. The car stopped just a few centimeters from her feet. "Are you all right?" exclaimed Joel, rushing to the gypsy woman to see if she was hurt. She looked intently into his eyes and then suddenly said, "May I have a look at your hand? You are a very interesting man. You saved my life." Joel was so amazed at the elderly woman's composure that he held out his palm to her without speaking. The fortune-teller studied the lines on his hand long and carefully, then took Joel by the chin and looked intently into his brown eyes. "What's the matter with wife?" she asked quietly. "I can see you miss her a lot. She is far away now, it is true, but she loves you and misses you very much, though she is quite offended at you." Joel's brain felt as if pierced by a red-hot arrow. Did this striking woman really mean? Unable to contain his feelings, Joel grabbed the gypsy woman by the shoulders and shook her violently, shouting one question. "Cassie, is she alive? Tell me, have you seen her?" The fortune-teller only smiled thoughtfully and patted Joel's shoulders motherly. "I told you everything I see. Thank you again for sparing my life. The spirits will help you, if you can find a second one like me." With these words, the elderly woman smoothly pulled away from Joel and leisurely headed down the street. "Hey, wait! Hey!" Joel tried to catch up with her, but the gypsy woman did not turn around, as if she hadn't heard him. Joel got distracted for a moment to check his car, and when he turned back, she had disappeared altogether, as if she had never been there. "It's mystical," was all Joe could mutter. Looking at his hands, he saw that they were shaking with a fine tremor. It wasn't surprising, considering the emotions raging in his soul at that moment. He couldn't believe his own happiness. Cassie was alive. "What if you, the fortune-teller, are lying?" he reasoned with himself on the way home from work. "What if she's just a fraud? I heard the gypsies have powerful hypnotism. Maybe that's it." However, after thinking about it, Joel abandoned such a thought. "No way, it's nothing. If she wanted to rob me, she would have done it immediately. And she didn't take anything. She didn't even ask for money. And she knew from somewhere that I had a second wife. Thinking about all this, Joel used all his connections and very soon was able to get to the best detective in the capital, Hayes Rannells. The private detective had a truly clear reputation, and many of Joel's acquaintances praised him not only for his professional skills, but also for personal qualities like honesty, integrity, and complete confidentiality. Having arranged a meeting, Joel told the detective the story of his wife's disappearance and asked him to find any references to women with a similar appearance to Cassie who had appeared at the mountain area recently. Maybe she lost her memory or something like that, Joel explained to the detective. I don't know what exactly happened to her, but I'm sure Cassie just can't contact me, for whatever reason. Understood, Mr. Hellman. Rannells nodded. I'll dig my nose into the ground and find your wife. Joel exhaled tiredly. I beg you check every leaf, every branch in these woods. The police are just trying to close the case. If a person is missing, they're gone. The detective looked at the man with a sly smile. Don't worry, Mr. Hillman, that's the police, and I'm a private investigator. We have other methods, and hopefully they will prove much more effective. After this conversation, the detective gathered his things and flew straight to the mountains. Hayes had to put in significant effort and travel to many local villages until he finally got lucky. I've seen such a maiden, muttered a huntsman, looking at Cassie's photograph that the detective was showing her. She's Alberta's assistant. Alberta is our herbalist. Are you sure? The detective asked with hope in his voice. Absolutely, the huntsman answered and pointed toward the forest. Alberta lives in the middle of nowhere, beneath the mountain. If you find her hut, you'll find yours, the missing one. Hayes thanked the woman, and, without wasting time, set off to find the herbalist's house. He walked through the dense forest until dusk, and it got dark quickly there. Hayes Rannells checked the map frequently to ensure he was heading in the right direction. At one point, while shining his flashlight on the map, his leg was suddenly pierced by excruciating pain. Shrieking loudly, the detective fell onto the grass and saw that his foot had fallen into a huge trap, the kind usually set for bears or other large predators. My God, was all the man could mutter before he plunged into darkness, dropping the flashlight and the map, which had the final destination circled in bold red paste, the cabin of the herbalist. When the detective regained consciousness, he didn't immediately realize where he was. Everything around him was adorned with strange objects, dried herbs, and bright, multicolored beads hanging everywhere. Where am I? Hayes slowly uttered, his lips still numb, making him sound like a wooden puppet. It's all right, you're safe now, a beautiful female voice said nearby. You were trapped, so you'll have to stay here for a while until your leg heals. The detective looked up carefully and saw two women sitting next to him at a small round table. One was older, with long black braids hanging down either side of her beautiful, elongated fox-like face. The other was younger, blonde, very thin, with attentive light grey eyes. Cassie! Involuntarily burst out Hayes. How good it is that I have found you. Have we met? The woman was surprised and looked at the man incomprehensibly. Alberta only frowned in response and spoke softly. We live in interesting times. Earlier, husbands would follow their wives even to the end of the world for great love, to fight any demons to protect them. And now, they send strangers in their place to do all the dirty work for them? Cassie slowly shifted her gaze from Alberta to the man and back again. So, were you sent here by Joel? She was sincerely amazed. Well, here's one for you. Did he remember me after all this time? Or is he unhappy with his new wife? Hayes leaned back on his pillows. He was still weak. Rest. Alberta spoke and brought a mug with some herbal infusion to his lips. Drink so the wounds heal faster. I don't need any freeloaders here." As soon as Hayes' lips touched the bitter drink, he felt incredibly tired. He had a terrible desire to sleep. But before he passed out, he managed to say to Cassie, "I promised to let him know when I found you. Joel, he loves you very much." The next time Hayes came to his senses, it was already daytime outside. He determined this by the bright light streaming into the windows of the hut through the clean panes. "How are you feeling?" Cassie asked as she came up to him. "Strangely enough, but already better." Hayes answered honestly. He wasn't lying. The pain in his leg had indeed subsided, although he felt he would have to recover for quite a long time. "Cassie, tell me, how did you find me?" the detective inquired. The woman only smiled softly, pointing with her hand somewhere deep inside the hut. It was all Alberta. She sensed there was someone in the woods who needed help. "We went out, wandered around the forest for a while. Alberta had to make a connection with the spirits, as she calls it, and then we saw the light from your flashlight and found you. It turns out that the two of you dragged me home alone?" the detective asked, genuinely surprised. "Well, yes, we took a stretcher with us. Alberta said it would be helpful." "She is really like a shaman. How could she know I was lying there?" Cassie looked out the window, and sadness was reflected on her face. "Yes, Alberta is a wonderful person. She saved me when I thought I was already dead." "What do you mean?" The detective didn't understand. "You were caught in an avalanche, weren't you?" The woman raised her eyebrows skeptically. "You know about that too? Well, it's really true. I went to the river to think about what to do next. You see, I was very ill. You might say I was preparing for death. And I was also terrified to tell my husband about it." Hayes looked at Cassie in amazement. "Joel thought you had another man and ran away with him." "Really?" Cassie turned away, but the detective had time to see her eyes sparkling with tears. "Well, it doesn't matter anymore. When Alberta found me, I was between this world and the afterlife." It took all of Cassie's self-control to hold back her bursting feelings. "My breathless body washed ashore. I was lying in shallow water, and Alberta rescued me and brought me here. She managed to do what the doctors couldn't. She healed me. I was treated for a very long time with herbs and spiritual practices that she taught me. The doctor said I could have died in 6 months to a year, but as you can see, I'm still alive. Don't think I'm naive enough not to have my tests rechecked. I was in a neighbouring city. They have an MRI machine there. There's no more tumour. Do you understand?" The doctor looked at me like a fool and said, "Why did you even have a checkup? You're perfectly healthy." "Wait, but if that's so, then why did you not let Joel know about yourself all this time?" Cassie looked at him, and her eyes sparkled with righteous anger. "You don't think I've tried? I called my husband, but I heard Amanda's voice instead. Do you know what she told me? That Joel had buried me, mourned me, and was ready to move on. That he didn't need me anymore, and he's marrying Amanda. She told me never to call him or her again. Told me to feel sorry for Joel if I loved him, and really wishing him nothing but happiness." Cassie wiped her eyes and added briefly, "I'm not going back to him. Let them be happy." Hayes looked at Cassie and shook his head. "I think you're very wrong about your husband. And do you realise that I have to let him know you're here anyway? That's my job. And you'll figure out what to do with your husband and with your life." The woman only shrugged her shoulders in response. "I don't care now." When Hayes reported everything to Joel by satellite phone, he first fell into complete prostration, and then ordered tickets and flew to the detective and his wife the next morning. With difficulty getting to the herbalist's hut, the man almost lost the gift of speech when he saw Cassie in the yard. "Finally, you have found your sweetheart, have you?" Sternly looking at him, Alberta asked. "Know that she is phoenix risen from the ashes. She's got a great will to live. Not like you. You mourned her for a little and gave up." Joel was so happy that he did not pay attention to the herbalist's bark and only said joyfully, "The fortune teller was right. I found a second one like her. It's you. And through you, I found Cassie." However, Cassie was not in the mood to forgive her husband. Joel had to ask for forgiveness from his ex-wife for a very long time before she finally thawed a little and told him the same story as the detective. "So that's why Amanda was so nervous on that damn Friday," Joel finally realized. "You called her, and she was afraid you might come back. There's no way she expected you to be alive." "But that didn't stop you from being nice to her," Cassie said coldly. "How could you, Joel? It's Amanda. You saw that she was always partial to you, literally obsessed with you." "If I had known then where this was going," Joel muttered back to her, "Cassie, I'm so sorry to you. Forgive me for God's sake. If I had been more careful and sensitive, none of this would have happened to you." Joel dropped to his knees in front of his wife and began to cover her hands with kisses. "Don't, Joel, get up," Cassie begged him. "I can see that you're remorseful, and that's good enough for me. After all, I never stopped loving you, either, not for a single day, even though your betrayal with Amanda hurt me." Cassie took a deep breath and continued, "But if it wasn't for the whole story, I wouldn't be standing here right now. So in a way, this trip was my salvation." Joel hugged his wife affectionately and pulled her to him as gently as he could. Into that embrace he put all of his unspent love that he had kept deep in his heart all this time. "Cassie, how blind I've been, how stupid. Go back to me, please. I love you and never stopped loving." Cassie smiled at her husband and slowly replied, "Okay, let's try, but first we need to get Hayes to the hospital. After all, he did so much to find me, and as it turns out, risked his health to do it." Hayes was transported to a good clinic, and Joel paid for his treatment, and also paid the man a solid fee for finding his beloved wife. Cassie did not forget Alberta. In gratitude for her rescue, she hired a team of builders, and they built her a modern, spacious home. Additionally, they constructed a separate annex for all the necessary attributes for the herbalist. When Cassie and Joel arrived home, Amanda was in a natural rage. She lashed out and expressed to her sworn friend all the resentment that had accumulated in her soul over the years. As it turned out, Amanda had always envied Cassie. During their studies and afterward, when Cassie got a good job, Amanda couldn't handle it. When Joel appeared in Cassie's life, Amanda set herself the goal of taking away Cassie's most precious thing, her husband. And when Cassie supposedly died in an avalanche, Amanda was terribly happy about it. Joel was shocked and told her to never show up in his and Cassie's life. A few months later, Cassie pleased her spouse with the news of her pregnancy. Now, the couple is preparing for the birth of the baby and hopes that their life will be filled only with happiness from now on. Ian strode quickly across the hospital hall, suddenly realizing he didn't know where to go. He grabbed the shoulders of the first woman in a white coat, who gasped and looked at him with frightened eyes. Rachel Mobley! What ward is she in? Where is she?" His voice hissed and trembled, bouncing on syllables like an unstable cardiogram. The doctor pursed her lips, looking confused at the strange man. He shook her weakly, unable to control himself. "Rachel Mobley! She was brought here 2 days ago! My bride!" he nearly shouted. Hearing the word bride, the woman seemed to snap out of her stupor. A flickering of understanding and even pity crossed her face. "Ah, yes, 2nd floor, Ward 13. The man didn't even thank her. immediately running for the stairs. Waiting for the elevator seemed unforgivably long. He kept repeating the room number. 13, a damn dozen. Ian wasn't superstitious, but he followed some rules due to his profession. As a sailor, he knew a ship that changed its name was haunted by bad luck. He always stepped onto the deck with his right foot and never whistled on the ship. These were habits rather than real fears. The captain once told him that a red sky in the evening promised good luck, but a red sky at sunrise meant trouble. Now, Ian involuntarily remembered standing on the ship's deck early one morning, looking at the horizon. They were close to home. He thought about how soon their crew would go ashore for 3 whole months. Some of these sea wolves were invited to Ian and Rachel's wedding, set to take place in a week. Ian couldn't wait to get home and embrace his bride. She had had her bachelorette party planned for that night, while the groom's friends would meet a day later. At one point, Ian looked up at the rising sun. It was red, so red it seemed as if thick blood, not seawater, lay beyond. Ian remembered the captain's words, but paid no attention. What failures could await him? Nonsense. After all, he would soon see his bride, embrace her, hold her close. Soon he'd call her his wife, his sweet, beloved Rachel. At that moment he was the happiest man on earth, and thought nothing could change that. How wrong he was. The ship was delayed by bad weather. When the sailors finally overcame the elements and dropped anchor in their home port, terrible news awaited. Rachel was hospitalized. His future mother-in-law, Mrs. Mobley, called. Her voice, torn by excitement and tears, explained, "Rachel was coming from the club after her bachelorette party. She was attacked from behind, dragged into an alley between establishments. There are no people there, just garbage cans from restaurants and stores, pipes and such. She didn't see who attacked her. The police found no traces of the crime." Ian was terrified. "How is she?" "Better," said the woman, "but we'll have to postpone the wedding. Her face... Ian, you'll see for yourself, but please stay calm. She doesn't want to look in the mirror. She cries a lot. She's afraid to see you. She says she's become ugly." Ian swallowed hard, then whispered so quietly he wasn't sure if he'd spoken aloud. I didn't love her for her beauty." Of course, Ian, who fell for Rachel at first sight, had first noticed her eyes and smile, but he loved her for her soul. I know, darling," Mrs. Mobley wailed. Ian found out which hospital she was in and, hanging up the phone, rushed to the address. He didn't even change his clothes, setting off in his navy uniform. Before the door to the ward, remembering Mrs. Mobley's words, Ian froze for a moment, gathering his wits. He wasn't afraid to look into his fiancée's face. He feared hurting her with a careless glance or nervous movement she might misinterpret. He longed to enter, unable to bear the anticipation any longer, but hesitated when he heard his bride crying and her mother speaking. "No," Mrs. Mobley said loudly, almost shouting. "No, Rachel, you won't say anything to him. Men don't forgive such things." But I'm not guilty of anything," Rachel sobbed. "I didn't cheat on him." "Yes, I understand that." "You understand, but will Ian?" the woman objected. "Rachel, he's a man. They have a different perspective on some things. You know how many years I worked in the hospital as an anesthesiologist. I can tell you countless stories of men leaving their wives after their surgeries, like hysterectomies or ovarian removals. Can you imagine? They claimed their wives were no longer women, inferior. And you, Rachel, I wish you well. That's why I'm telling you the bitter truth. No man will take you as a wife after you've been abused. You'll be damaged goods to them now. Do you understand?" But Ian loves me. He will understand. Rachel sobbed. Oh, stop it. He loved you when you were beautiful and desirable. And now, who knows how everything will turn out? Come on, pull yourself together. Don't cry. He called us, so he'll be here soon. Stop crying. I'll talk to the doctors, so they won't discuss the details. I have some acquaintances here. Mrs. Mobley continued mumbling, instructing her daughter on how to act. But Ian tuned out the nonsense. His anger boiled within him. He respected Mrs. Mobley, but now he was furious with her. The door burst open, slamming against the wall before rebounding. Ian raised his hand to stop it from hitting him, as if the door were retaliating for the rough treatment. Ian! Mrs. Mobley leapt to her feet, still clutching the napkin she'd used to wipe her daughter's face. You're here already? So fast? Rachel froze momentarily, then shrieked and buried her face in her hands. Ian crossed the room in one stride and fell to his knees before his bride. He longed to pry her hands from her face and look into her eyes, but didn't dare. He gazed at Rachel, struck by her fragility. How could anyone do such a thing to her? What kind of monster was capable of that? Ian vowed to uncover the culprit's identity, but for now he pushed thoughts of vengeance aside, burying them in a dark corner of his soul. He focused on his trembling bride. Rachel, he called softly. Rachel, I love you. I love you beyond measure. And I will love you no matter what. Do you hear me? It's not your fault, Rachel. Rachel sobbed. He embraced her gently, drawing her to his chest. Ian stroked her back and quivering shoulders, kissing the crown of her tangled hair. Rachel lowered her hands from her face but pressed it against her fiancé's chest. She clutched his shirt, clinging to him. Rachel, I'll never leave you. We'll get married, do you hear? I can't imagine anyone but you by my side. I want you always near me. I want to come home to you. I want you to be the mother of our children. I want to grow old with you and stroll in the park like that sweet elderly couple we always see on weekends. Remember them? Rachel nodded. I love you, Ian. Further than touchline, she murmured through her tears. Ian's lips quivered in a faint attempt at a smile. It was their private joke. Rachel and Ian had met at the Institute. Ian was a third-year student who played soccer. Rachel was a freshman who'd come with her friends to watch a match. The girls were cheering for Ian's opponents. Rachel's friend's boyfriend was their goalkeeper, as it turned out. Ian noticed the blue-eyed blonde immediately. He fell in love at first sight. There was no explaining the feeling. It was like a shot to the heart. Bam! And that was it. He recalled how dismayed he'd been to see the girl wearing a red t-shirt, the colour of his rivals. Ian himself wore a blue uniform. As soon as the match ended, he dashed to the stands and blurted out, without even a greeting, "Blue would suit you better." Rachel turned around in surprise, her gaze meeting the sapphire-coloured eyes of a young man. She smiled, despite having heard the brown-eyed brunette's words perfectly well. Her friends murmured and giggled, prompting Rachel to glare at them, a slight blush colouring her cheeks. "Blue colours," Ian swallowed, tapping his chest with his fist. "Also, my jersey number. It'll suit you too. And my last name." The stranger's blonde eyebrows twitched at such a bold statement, but Ian stood firm. Years later, after graduating from university, Ian proposed to Rachel on the soccer field. When Rachel asked him to kick the ball as far as he liked her, Ian sent it soaring over the touchline. Thus, their inside joke was born. To finance their wedding and mortgage, Ian took a job on a merchant ship. Rachel, meanwhile, worked in her field as a marketer. Their future seemed bright, but storm clouds loomed on the horizon. Rachel allowed Ian to see her face, though she avoided his eyes. Had she looked, she would have seen a tempest of emotions: anger, pain, despair, rage, and fear brewing within her fiancé. "Rachel, tell me everything," he urged. "Who did this? Where?" Rachel hesitated, recalling her mother's advice. Mrs. Moberly had tactfully left, giving the young couple privacy. Taking a deep breath, Rachel decided to tell the truth. "It happened at my bachelorette party. I was wearing a white dress and veil, short, but not excessively so. My knees were barely showing. The police suggested it was because of how I looked, but I didn't even choose the dress. The girls gave it to me, you know." Rachel wrung her hands anxiously. Ian gently took them, pressing them to his lips to quell her trembling. "It's not your fault," he insisted. "Neither you nor the length of your dress gives anyone the right to—" He couldn't finish, only squeezing her fingers weakly. The absence of her wedding ring was painfully apparent. Rachel hadn't reached that part of the story yet. She continued, "I called a cab, but it stopped on the wrong side of the building. As I was walking around to find it, dialing the driver's number," she shuddered, reliving the moment, "someone grabbed me from behind and shoved me into an alley. It smelled strange. They knocked me down and wouldn't let me look around or scream, pinned me to the ground. He grabbed my hair and—" She shook her head, unable to voice the rest. "Afterward I couldn't stand up. He kissed my cheek mockingly, told me to say hello to my fiancé, and took my engagement ring as a trophy." Her voice quavered. "I managed to hit him with my last bit of strength. He groaned and dropped something, but then he heard people nearby and ran away. I tried to call for help, but I passed out." Rachel shared a few more harrowing details that made Ian's blood boil. She had been left in a dark alley behind a dumpster, like discarded trash. Some homeless people who frequented the area for restaurant leftovers found her. At first, they thought she wasn't breathing, but then she moved. These strangers showed more humanity than some. They covered her with their clothes, dirty as they were, and took her to the police. From there, Rachel was taken to the hospital. "They examined me, Ian," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It wasn't just abuse. He damaged something inside me. The doctor isn't sure if I'll ever be able to have children." She lowered her head, hiding behind a curtain of hair, as tears fell from her cornflower blue eyes. "So, think about whether you still want me." Ian gently tilted her chin up, meeting her gaze. He kissed her with infinite tenderness, his breath warm against her lips as he whispered, "I need you. Only you." Ian was overwhelmed with pain for his fiancée and consumed by guilt. He felt he should have been there to protect her. After spending the day with his bride, Ian set out in the evening on a mission. Rachel had explained that she'd given a statement to the police, but they seemed eager to sweep the matter under the rug. Ian went to the station, only to confirm that no one was taking action. "Bloody hell, so you're the fiancé, eh?" a police officer said dismissively. "We sympathise, of course, but isn't it obvious? The girl was out clubbing, excited about getting married. She probably hooked up with someone and is now spinning tales." Ian was on the verge of grabbing him by the throat. Consequences be damned. Thankfully, another employee, a young man, pulled Ian away. "Easy now," he hissed, trying to subdue the enraged Ian. "Let's step outside and talk this through. You won't get any help in here." Sensing the man's unusual tone, Ian relented. He allowed himself to be led outside, where he even accepted a cigarette from the law enforcement officer. "I'm Frank Reed. I'm new here, but I've already figured out how things work," he admitted. "No one's going to investigate your fiancé's case. They're saying she—" well, you know. And don't glare at me like that. I'm not the one who made that decision. Frank took a drag, kicked a stone, then continued. But here's the strange part. She's not the first. Similar incidents have happened in this neighborhood. But our higher-ups turn a blind eye. He frowned, scratching the back of his head. What if there was more? Thing is, few victims report to the police. They're scared, afraid of gossip, of not being believed, of being blamed, and as you can see, with good reason. Ian listened intently, then tapped the ash off his cigarette. Why are you telling me this? Frank hesitated, then confessed. I had an aunt. A good woman. She wasn't believed either. Then at her funeral, they all cried. He paused reluctantly. She took her own life, couldn't cope with it. I am sorry, Ian said sincerely. Frank nodded, flicking away more ash. Yeah, it was long ago. I was just a kid. Ian licked his lips, then looked at his unexpected ally. Where did it happen? I want to go there. You won't find anything. There are always homeless people around at night, and our guys have already combed the area, Frank said. I still want to go. Stubborn, aren't you? Frank relented. He gave directions, then bid farewell, pausing to offer his phone number. In case you need anything, give me a call. He waved goodbye. Thank you, Ian said earnestly. Good luck, and take care of your girl, okay? Ian nodded. An hour later he stood at the scene, unsure of his next move. He scanned the ground for overlooked clues, then searched for any cameras nearby. As he was about to leave the alley to survey the surrounding area, a rustle caught his attention. The man spun around, muscles tense but quickly relaxed. A child, a boy in dirty clothes, was staring at him. The boy seemed terrified, more so than usual. Ian noted that street kids typically acted more brazenly, begging or pilfering, but this one was frozen, numb with fear, lips and fingers trembling, knees knocking together. It's okay, I won't hurt you. Ian raised his hands, palms out. The child clearly didn't trust the stranger's words. He wanted to flee but couldn't. His legs wouldn't cooperate. Ian's thoughts turned to the plight of this street child. Why wasn't anyone looking after him? Couldn't he be placed in an orphanage or found adoptive parents? Where are you from? Do you have parents? Ian asked. Do you need help? The boy shook his head weakly, but Ian caught the motion. A sombre thought crossed the sailor's mind. Rachel and I might not be able to have children, yet someone discards them like unwanted kittens. Feeling a mix of exhaustion, boredom and pity for the child, the man reached for his wallet. He pulled out a bill, then looking at the boy, took out more. Here, he said, buy yourself, I don't know, food, clothes. The boy remained still, eyes fixed on the money. Ian had toiled hard for that cash, but now it seemed inconsequential. With a sigh, he crouched down and placed the bills on the grimy ground. There, take it after I'm gone, all right? As Ian prepared to leave the alley, he suddenly shuddered. For a moment he thought he glimpsed Rachel's veil. It was just a torn white rag, but his heart had already leapt to his throat, pulse pounding in his temples. Ian staggered, realizing he hadn't slept or eaten in far too long. The grueling day at sea, followed by an emotional turmoil on land, had taken its toll. The relentless, nervous tension was finally catching up on him. Ian would have collapsed for certain, but suddenly he felt support. The boy. He'd sprung up, ignoring the money, and caught the stranger with his frail, thin arms. Are you okay? The boy asked in a small voice. Yes. Help me sit down, Ian requested. The boy helped the man sit on the curb, leaning against a nearby wall. Ian caught his breath, then looked at the kid who still lingered. What's your name? Cole. Cole, I'm Ian. Tell me, Cole, do you help everyone in dark alleys? He mumbled, puzzled. Ian was already on edge, and now there was this kid. What should he do with him? He couldn't just leave him on the street, but he also couldn't drag him to the nearest orphanage, and he didn't trust the cops either. "No, only you," said the boy. "What if I was some kind of jerk?" Ian muttered, "just distracting you to grab you." "Then I'd be trapped," Cole said without blinking. Ian couldn't hold back a chuckle, but then frowned again. "This is a dangerous alley. Don't come here, okay? It's no place for kids." "I know," the kid said suddenly. "I've seen things." Ian nodded, not immediately grasping the boy's words, but then shuddered. "What did you see?" The boy hesitated, reluctant to answer. He took a step back, glancing at the money. He seemed to be considering snatching it and running, but somehow he didn't. "Listen, kid, something terrible happened to someone very close to me recently. My fiancé," Ian began. "Tell me, did you see anything like that?" The boy pressed his lips together, then nodded. Ian felt his heart sink and his palms and back grew clammy. "Tell me," he pleaded. The boy was still hesitant, but then his gaze fell on the man's uniform. "You're a sailor, right?" Ian was anxious, not understanding why it mattered who he was. Still, he mustered patience, grasping at straws, and nodded. "Yes, Cole, I'm a sailor, but on a merchant ship." The boy smiled, his eyes shining with delight. "And you sail on a ship? A big one?" Cole asked in awe. "Yes, it's a big one. It's called Heart of the Wind." Ian answered patiently. "So what did you see, Cole?" The boy shifted from foot to foot, glancing over his shoulder at the alley's exit. It was summer, so the street lights weren't on yet, but darkness was falling on this moonless night. The shadows seemed to creep closer, reaching out with their tendrils from the corners. "I sometimes sleep here when it's warm," the boy confessed in a whisper. "Over there, around the corner. There's a restaurant here and a kind cook. Lee gives me dinner. I only come during his shift because the others shoo me away. The other day, I found a phone here. I was thrilled. It's really cool with a big screen. I didn't know what to do, so I hid it. It turned off. Then at night, as I was falling asleep, some strangers came. They were searching for something, turning everything upside down, swearing a lot. They noticed old Ben." "Who?" Ian pressed, trying to catch every detail. "Ben also lives on the street," explained the boy. "He's very kind and often tells me stories. He feeds the dogs too. He sometimes sleeps here next to the pipes. They woke him up and started yelling and even beat him, but he didn't do anything to them. They asked if he'd seen the phone. I knew right away they meant that phone, but I was so scared. I was even afraid to breathe. I hid from them. They took Ben away somewhere, and he never came back." "Do you have the phone?" asked Ian, hardly daring to hope. His throat was dry. "Yes, I left it in my hiding place. I wanted to throw it away, but I couldn't bring myself to. It won't turn on anymore. It's probably dead," the boy explained. "Can you bring it to me?" Ian asked hopefully. The boy, pondering, looked at the stranger's uniform again, and then nodded. He ran around the corner. Ian jumped up, frightened the boy would simply run away, but he came back in a flash. In the child's hands was a large phone, the latest model. It was indeed discharged, but buying a charger for such a model wasn't difficult. Ian didn't know what he held, a false lead or the right cue. Nevertheless, he didn't hesitate. He held out his hand to the boy. "All right, Cole, you're my witness now. Will you come with me? I'll take care of business first, then we'll figure out what to do with you." "What do you mean?" Cole gasped. "Exactly what I said. You think I'd leave you after learning you're sleeping in alleys? Children shouldn't live on the streets." Cole frowned. "I have a house, but I run away a lot. I can't live there," he confessed, then hesitantly added, Uncle Sasha drinks too much, and then he beats me, and worse. Uncle Sasha, is it? Your mother's boyfriend? Ian guessed. Cole nodded, rubbing his hands as if cold. Noticing the dirt on his fingers, he tried to scrub it off with his nails, but to no avail. Yes, he used to be in prison. He and Mum wrote letters to each other. She was thrilled when he got out, said I'd have a daddy, and there'd be a man in the house. But Uncle Sasha, he's cruel. He drinks, and Mum started drinking with him too. He invites his friends over to play cards. Last time I ran away because he threw a bottle at me. Ian shuddered at the image. What about your mother? Mum loves him more than me. She defends him, even when he's wrong. I hate to ask, but don't you have a real dad? Ian inquired, knowing the answer was unlikely to be pleasant. Dad was... The boy looked up at Ian and smiled, wide and sincere. Dad was a sailor, like you. I'll be a sailor someday too. When Daddy was with us, everything was fine. The boy's face darkened momentarily, then he added, Daddy died at sea. So please be careful, okay? The boy's concern touched invisible strings in Ian's soul. Too many feelings and emotions had washed over him in this interminably long day. They were like a huge, overwhelming wave. It was getting harder and harder to cope. Right. Well, the plan stands. You're coming with me. We'll charge the phone first, then figure out the next steps. For now, you'll stay with me and Rachel. She's my fiancée, but she's in the hospital currently, Ian said decisively. In the end, Ian took Cole home. He fed him, bathed him, and dressed him in oversized but clean clothes. Ian then sent the boy to sleep in the living room, tucking him into fresh linens. He even found a set of his old children's underwear in the loft, already laundered, which should have been used for rags long ago. However, it had a faded Spider-Man print that delighted the boy. When the child fell asleep, the phone turned on. Alas, the device was locked. Ian was at a loss, but then he remembered the policeman's number. Not really expecting help, he decided to dial it. Frank answered, not immediately, and with a full mouth. Hello? Hello, Frank, Ian began, as if calling a friend. It's Ian, we met today. Judging by the sounds, the policeman chewed more vigorously, then swallowed his dinner. I didn't think you'd call, and so soon at that. Neither did I, but here's the thing. Is there a way to hack into a phone? Frank snorted. Let's pretend you're not asking a policeman to commit phone hacking. I'm too intrigued. So can someone do it? Ian pressed, having no time for jokes. Frank sighed. I think fate sent me to you. I can. But which phone and why? Ian outlined the situation. Frank responded instantly, saying he was ready to come. Ian texted him the address and waited. He had smoked only 2 cigarettes when Frank's car appeared in the courtyard, squeezing into a free space between the residents' cars. Within half an hour, Frank had accessed the phone. Both young men were shocked by what they found inside. Numerous photos and videos of girls. The device's owner, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends, had stalked victims, attacked them, and filmed everything. Each time, he took a trophy. Ian couldn't bring himself to watch the last video. It featured Rachel. He knew he could never forget if he did. He trusted Frank with this task. They quickly identified the owner from the pictures and data on the phone. It turned out to be Tom McShane, a politician's son who had already been flagged by the police several times for drunk driving and public intoxication. However, his father had always found a way to get him off. Tom had even been to rehab a couple of times, but it hadn't helped. This time, McShane couldn't buy his way out. The evidence was too strong. A search of his apartment uncovered Rachel's wedding ring, along with other trophies of the scoundrel. Frank Reed, who had been updating Ian on the investigation, called in the evening to have him identify the evidence. Ian confirmed that he had personally bought the ring. "You can collect it when the investigation is over," said Frank. "For now it's evidence." "No, I don't want it. I'll buy another one," Ian replied, shaking his head, unwilling to even touch the jewellery. The trial dragged on, long and tediously. There was reluctance to imprison a politician's son, but justice ultimately prevailed. McShane went to prison. Rachel recovered, aided by extensive sessions with a psychologist, but her main support was her fiancé. He showered her with even more love and tenderness. She and Ian had their wedding, albeit postponed to the end of summer. Frank Reed became Ian's best man, and they forged a strong friendship. Ian was deeply grateful for his friend's help. What became of Cole, the boy who played such a crucial role in this story? Ian and Frank visited his apartment, naively believing they could persuade the child's mother to come to her senses. The policeman even resorted to threatening her ex-convict boyfriend. However, the men soon realized that words alone couldn't help the boy. They were forced to involve Child Protective Services, and Cole was sent to an orphanage. But he didn't stay there long. Accustomed to running away, the boy escaped, and a day later appeared on Rachel and Ian's doorstep. He had memorized the route from his previous stay with them. After careful consideration, Ian and Rachel decided to adopt Cole. He became a wonderful son to them, and 2 years later, a big brother to their daughter Vanessa. Defying doctors' predictions, Rachel and Ian had a healthy, beautiful daughter. Many years later, Cole would become a sailor, following in the footsteps of both his biological and adoptive fathers. Vanessa would become a designer. But that's not the most important part. What matters most is that both children grew up in a happy, loving family. As for the past, it remains in the past. It's better not to dwell on it, but to look forward to a bright future. Nervously, Blair tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. "When will this snow stop?" he said, glancing anxiously at his watch. "Such terrible weather. It was better to stay indoors. We're stuck in this traffic jam." "Why are you so upset?" Patricia retorted, admiring her reflection in the mirror. She dabbed bright red lipstick on her lips. "There's nothing we can do. This snowstorm has the entire city in a traffic jam, so I don't see why you're bothered." "Don't you understand that I'm late for a meeting? Do you think the boss will be happy about that? I wouldn't want him to regret making me his deputy. It's not pleasant to end my career at the beginning." "Poof!" Patricia snorted dismissively. "He's probably stuck in traffic too. What are you so worried about? You said he's a reasonable man. I'm sure he'll understand." "You're probably right. Otherwise he would have called and scolded me by now." Blair peered into the grey snow shroud outside the window. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up, and even the side windows were covered in snow. "If we stay here a few more minutes, we risk becoming a snowdrift. Should we get out and clear the car?" Blair mused aloud. He had already unbuckled his seatbelt when a clear strip appeared on the window, revealing a big-eyed, mischievous boy's smiling face. "I don't understand," the man muttered, looking at the boy wielding a squeegee. "What's he doing? Is he doing us a favour or volunteering? Doesn't he realise it's dangerous?" "What's not to get?" responded Patricia, her plump lips curling into a grin. "He's pretending to work. You're not going to pay him, are you? Nobody asked him to do this. Tell him to leave before he scratches the car. There are too many like him on the road. He'll start asking for money soon." "Why are you so hard on him?" Blair asked, finally understanding why the boy was cleaning the windows. "I think he's good. He's earning money instead of begging his parents for it. All work should be paid." Blair took his wallet out of his expensive coat pocket and pulled out a bill. "We should thank him. Otherwise, I'd have to clear the snow myself." "Blair, are you seriously going to give this beggar money?" Patricia exclaimed, noticing the bill in his hand. He didn't even ask if we needed help. He's not going to leave us now. He'll start offering us overpriced water. What else do these people usually offer in traffic? He's trying to work for a living. What's wrong with that? Would you prefer he started robbing stores? I'm happy to pay for his service. Blair rolled down the window and handed the boy the money. The boy smiled gratefully and nodded in thanks. Thank you, kid. Blair waved goodbye as the boy moved on to another car. Be careful. And you don't feel guilty for spending that kind of money on him? The woman asked, her nose wrinkling in distaste as she glowered at the boy. What did he do? Throw snow off the glass? Oh, what a diligent worker. Couple of swipes of the scraper and you happily pay him. How many people like you will he con today? Do you think he'll use the money wisely? He'll probably waste it with other troublemakers, or worse. Maybe he's earning for booze or cigarettes. You know nothing about him. This is how we encourage these freeloaders, then they become a burden to us. Like you, probably, Blair muttered under his breath, starting the car. They moved forward a bit, before stopping again. What are you hinting? Are you criticizing me? The woman took offence. I didn't expect this from you. Not at all, Blair responded cheerfully. Just remembered, you stopped working as soon as we got married. Notice that I haven't brought it up till now. What's your problem with me? Yes, I believe a man should provide for his family, while a wife takes care of the house and pleases her husband. Isn't that a woman's role? Oh, yes, you're excellent at that. Are you insinuating that I'm not doing enough? Are you saying I'm a bad wife? Why are you twisting my words? I'm not accusing you of anything. You started this. You're upset with me over some guy. A bratty teenager matters more to you than your own wife. Patricia sulked, her lips pouting as she defiantly turned to her phone. No, you're critical to me, he said, and then added to himself, and expensive as well. He grimaced, recalling a recent conversation he'd had with his friend at a bar, discussing their wives. I'm going to be a dad soon, Tima had announced. My wife is pregnant. I still can't believe it. We've been waiting for a son for so long. I'm happy for you, Blair had smiled. I wish I could say the same, someday. Don't worry, buddy. You'll have kids soon. You're not that old. You both have everything you need to be parents. You're a wonderful couple. I don't think so. Patricia doesn't like children, and she doesn't hide it. No way, Timur had exclaimed in surprise. Every woman dreams of becoming a mother. You must be exaggerating. Yeah, that's what I thought at first too. Initially, she was like a house cat, all sweet, affectionate, easygoing and caring. But when I put an engagement ring on her finger, my sweetheart transformed into a wild hyena. Oh, come on, she's so feminine, so well-groomed. You're right about that. Her appearance is all she cares about. It's probably the only thing that truly matters to her. You always manage to make her look dazzling and flawless. I honestly even envy you. My wife relaxes at home. That's true. With Patricia, any event becomes more glamorous. My boss adores her and always invites us to their gatherings. She outshines everyone else. I sometimes suspect that we're invited to parties solely because of her. So what's your problem? You should be proud to have such a beauty by your side. I don't know, Blair replied sadly. Sometimes I find myself longing for simplicity. I yearn to see her without makeup, in a simple housecoat, taking care of our son. Is she good in the bedroom? I'm not complaining, but what's wrong with that? Patricia is trying to please you, while my wife doesn't care about me, and now that she's pregnant, she often refuses intimacy. Your Patricia could teach other wives a thing or two. What more do you want? I would be thrilled if mine would learn the art of seducing her husband. I'm not interested in mere intimacy, Blair muttered in despair. You don't understand. I want something more. I'm at an age where I crave a real family, comfort, family dinners with my wife and children, warm and ordinary relationships. I want to come home knowing that people are waiting for me, people who care about my feelings, not just the amount of money I earned that month. But Patricia, She loves no one but herself. Unfortunately, I realized this after our wedding. I had hoped she would change with time, but it only got worse. She's obsessed with her looks. Have you talked to her? Maybe she's too afraid to tell you that she also has a different view of family relationships and dreams of becoming a mother. Yes, I've talked to her countless times about having children, but she doesn't want to hear it. She wants me to be all about her and admire her. She can't bear the thought of sharing my attention and love with a third person in the house. No, children and Patricia, these concepts are incompatible. Blair's mind flashed back to a recent argument over the idea of having a child. When he cautiously brought up the idea of having an heir, Patricia had said, "Why did you bring this up again?" The young wife made a disgruntled grimace. "Children hold people back. If I had a baby, I'd immediately become less interesting. Stop bothering me with this topic. I'm not ready to be a mother." But other women don't think like that. They dream of having a child. Her husband tried to persuade her. That's the purpose of life. I'm sorry, but that's not the purpose of my life. A child will tie both of us down. Look, now we can easily go to a restaurant whenever we want. We can take a vacation anywhere during your time off. And we don't have to worry about finding a nanny or the child's health or anything. Remember the Lewis? We used to have so much fun with them. And now all you hear is, "Oh, we have to feed our daughter. Oh, we can't go to the club because we have no one to leave our daughter with. And Megan has gained 10 kilos. Do you want us to end up the same? No way. You and I are free, and it's wonderful. I don't want to hear about anything else." Why do we need such freedom? Children are a joy. They're an extension of us. Can you imagine how amazing it'll be when someone calls out, "Mummy"? I dream of that moment. Patricia was upset by her husband's words and responded reproachfully. "Don't remind me about children. You don't understand me. I don't want to change anything in my life. I like the way we live." Then tears welled up in her eyes. "Look what you've done to me." She ran to the mirror, noticing a new wrinkle. "I'll have to see the beautician again. This is all because I thought about having children. What if we did become parents? I can't bear the thought of constantly dealing with whimpering, messy, snotty babies. Sleepless nights, dark circles under my eyes, dull hair. It sounds horrifying. I'll become old prematurely, and then you'll leave me. But I want to spend my whole life with you. Don't ever bring this topic up again, unless you want an argument." "She's not ready to be a mother," Timur suggested after listening to his friend. "And when she is, she'll say it's too late to have children," Blair added, sighing heavily at Patricia's indignant voice. Blair, aren't you listening to me? What are you thinking about? I can't stand children, especially ones like this little beggar." Patricia's voice turned the man to the reality. "Are you upset about the kid or being late for your manicure?" "I'm annoyed by both, and your stupid jokes aren't helping. Is my mascara running?" "No. Your negative energy is heating up everything here. I'm going to step out for some fresh air." He opened the door, got out and stood next to the car, ready to jump back in should the traffic start moving. Suddenly his eyes fell on a group of 11 to 13-year-olds, among whom he recognized a recent acquaintance. "Wow, there's a crowd of them here," he thought. The boys were animatedly discussing something among themselves, while the young worker clearly felt uneasy. Blair had no intention of eavesdropping, but he couldn't help overhearing their fragmented, loudly spoken phrases. "What are you doing here? Guys, he's trying to make money." The teenagers taunted the boy. "You're poor. Go home. Your mum's probably worried sick. Don't you care about upsetting her? What are you looking at? We're telling you to get out of here before we kick you." "What? Doesn't your mum earn enough? Because she's not good enough. She's a pauper and so are you. Look at his clothes, guys. Where did he even find them? By the way, you should beg your father for money. Maybe he'll take pity on his beggar son." The teens laughed, encircling the boy. "Where's his father from? His mother's never been married. I don't even think she doesn't know who your father is." Why aren't you saying anything? We're talking to you. Blair frowned. What brats! Is it the boy's fault that he doesn't have a father? I grew up without a father too, and look at me. I'm only 33 and I'm already the deputy of the director of a prestigious construction firm. Could my abusers imagine I'd surpass most of them? With growing concern, Blair noticed that the situation was escalating. The group began to shove the boy around. Where's the money? They yelled, passing him from one to another like a ball. Empty your pockets. Better hand it over now, before we decide to punch you. Don't say we didn't warn you. Where did you hide it? Why are you being greedy? Come on, we're friends, aren't we? Friends share. Empty your pockets. Guys, leave me alone. The boy tried to resist, but his other boys were growing more aggressive. I don't have any money. Empty your pockets. One of them, apparently the instigator of the scuffle, demanded. We saw you get money. Then he deftly pulled the boy's backpack off. Let's see what he's got in here, he said, unzipping the bag and dumping its contents onto the sidewalk. Oh, textbooks. The others held the victim, laughing. He tried to free himself, but lacked the strength. Hold him tight. Where did you hide the money? The instigator kicked the textbooks and notebooks. Speak, before you get a slap. Blair couldn't stand by any longer. Hey, guys, what's going on? Shouldn't you be ashamed? 4 of you against 1. Break it up. Leave him alone, or I'll step in. Startled by Blair's shouts, the instigator pushed the victim onto Blair's car. The others scattered. The boy hit the hood. The scraper he'd been using on the windows slipped, leaving a scratch on the car. The boy fell onto the road right in front of the car. Blair ran to the boy, who looked at him in horror. I didn't mean to. He got up. It was an accident, sir. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. The boy looked from Blair to the scratch and back again. The man swiftly gathered his scattered textbooks into his backpack and silently handed them to the boy. And the boy hastily grabbed it and darted off. Stop! Blair yelled after him. Don't be scared. I won't hurt you. I just want to help. But the boy only sprinted faster. Spotting something colourful on the snow-dusted pavement, Blair bent down to pick it up. What a strange kid, he chuckled, holding a school diary. Let's see, who does it belong to? Ah, a 6th grade student, Charlie Turner. Well, Charlie Turner, nice to meet you. It seems I'll have to find you to return this. From the car, Patricia called out. Are we going to move soon? The traffic's starting. She was right. Cars behind them had started honking. Blair hopped into the car and they drove off. What's that you have there? Patricia asked, eyeing the diary on the back seat. It belongs to the kid. I need to return it, Blair replied. Why bother with that little troublemaker? Toss that thing out. He'll just get a new one. Patricia scrunched up her nose in disgust. Pull over at the next trash can and throw it away. It's his thing, and I think it is necessary for the boy, Blair responded without taking his eyes off the road. My God, I'm tired of your sentimentality. Look at the hood. Assess the damage. Your harmless boy wrecked our car. If you'd have sent him away immediately, the car wouldn't have been damaged. Do you realise now what your association with this little criminal has led to? The young woman was outraged. What he did to our car is a nightmare, and you protected him, gave him money. We must track him down and force his parents to cover the cost of painting the hood, Patricia exclaimed. Did you notice how repulsive he is, and his clothes? He belongs in jail. It's not for nothing his friends attacked him. Patricia, please calm down. Why are you so angry? What are you thinking about the car and the hood for? We nearly witnessed a tragedy. The boy was almost beaten and purposefully pushed onto the car. Didn't you see that? We shouldn't be looking for him, but for the people who did this to him. It's lucky traffic was stalled. If a car had been coming, the boy could have been hit. Did you consider that? He could have been disabled or killed. He's a child. And you think I should have just stood by and watched him get beaten up? Good riddance to him. There'll be one less bully, Patricia said, clearly annoyed. Why should I even think about such things? Damage has been done. It needs to be compensated for. You should have detained the boy. It's a pity you didn't. You should report this to the police. They'll find him quickly. Promise me you'll contact them immediately. I insist that you don't let this young bully's actions go unchecked. There's no telling what else he might do. Patricia, Blair responded calmly. The boy isn't guilty. He was pushed. It was an accident. You saw it yourself. I will not call the police. Do you understand that he won't be able to afford the paint job? And you're just going to forgive him for damaging an expensive car. Next time he might burn someone's car down. Let's hope it's not ours. Why are you exaggerating? The man wrinkled his nose in annoyance. He doesn't look like a bully at all. He's the victim here. Oh, so now you're an expert on what a bully looks like, are you? I'm not exaggerating. I can't believe you're defending him. He looks like a troublemaker. Just think about how much it's going to cost to repaint the hood. Patricia, this won't cost you anything. You shouldn't worry about this question at all. I'll figure it out without your advice. Are you heading to your manicure appointment? Then go. By the way, it's costing me quite a bit. More than a car repaint. So that's how it is, the wife retorted, taking offence. I won't say another word. You compare me to some criminal, yet I'm your wife. You care more about a juvenile delinquent than you do about me. With the money you'll spend fixing the car, you could buy me a new ring. Don't you have enough jewellery? Patricia, you never cease to amaze me. She fell silent, pouted her lips, and stared out the window without blinking. She didn't utter a word for the rest of the journey. That's a good thing she's silent, Blair reflected to himself. Now I have no doubts. We need a divorce. We're complete strangers to each other, with different life values. She only cares about her own well-being. All she ever talks about is money, beauty salons and pleasure. I shouldn't have snapped at her, but she really gets under my skin. I used to like everything about her, but now even her smile irritates me. And her attitude towards children. I'm still shaken by her words about the kid. It's better to live alone. Patricia will not give in to me without a fight, Blair thought to himself, anticipating her resistance to the divorce. She'll fight to keep my lucrative purse. No matter, I'll try to negotiate a settlement with her. I need to figure out how much I can afford to offer. I'll agree to her terms just to secure the divorce, but I need to introduce this idea tactfully. Pulling up at a beauty parlour, Blair announced, "This is your stop. See you tonight." The woman got out of the car without even looking at her husband. Glancing in the side mirror, Blair saw her aggrieved expression as she entered the salon, and he hurried off to work. "Is the boss angry?" he asked the secretary as he approached the conference room. "I'm half an hour late. The snowstorm in town is to blame. It's a mess out there. I couldn't have arrived any sooner. I need to find a good excuse." "Don't worry," the secretary reassured him with a smile. "The boss just arrived himself. Everyone's late today due to the weather." "Thank God," Blair sighed with relief. "I thought I was finished. Our boss is very punctual and expects the same from the rest of us." He entered the office, immersing himself in the whirlwind of daily concerns. The day flew by, filled with a meeting, customer and investor interactions, and discussions about future projects. Amidst the flurry of daily affairs, Blair never once thought about the morning incident. Only in the evening, as he got into his car to head home, he noticed the school diary on the seat. "I should return it," he said with a smile. "It could be a good excuse to meet that boy, Charlie Turner. I should get to know him better. Maybe I can help him out, or at least offer some support." He started the car and began to drive. "I remember when I was his age. I always wanted an adult around who could offer support and advice. I wonder if Patricia is still upset. Should I buy her flowers? It could come across as an apology, but I have nothing to apologize for. I'm so tired of her drama. I wonder how she'll greet me today, as a loving wife or an angry one." Upon returning home, Blair found his wife sitting on the living room couch. seemingly engrossed in a fashion magazine. She was flipping pages irritably, making it clear through her body language that she was still upset with him and uninterested in conversation. Nothing new, Blair thought, shrugging off her behaviour. Well, at least she's quiet. I don't have to listen to her constant talk about clothes and makeup. He opened the fridge and noticed the absence of dinner. So, she's decided to punish me by not preparing anything. She seldom cooks, but tonight she didn't even order from a restaurant. Perhaps this is the right moment to confront her and end our relationship. But I can't muster the courage now. Not today. I just want to relax without any issues. I'm too tired to handle any arguments that she might start just to ruin the evening. I've had enough stress for today. Making do with what he found in the fridge, Blair went to his study. The next morning, Patricia was nowhere to be seen. Blair brewed some coffee, prepared himself quickly, and rushed out of the house. He had other plans for the morning and wanted to avoid running into his wife. All right, he decided, getting into his car. I should try and find the owner of the diary, or else he might be worried about losing it. He picked up the phone and called his secretary. Mary, do we have anything urgent to do in the morning? No? Good. I'm going to run some errands. If anyone needs me, let them know I'll be back in a couple of hours. Thanks. Bye. Having finished his conversation, he headed to Charlie's school. After parking his car, Blair confidently approached the uniformed man. Hello, I'm looking for Charlie Turner from the 6th grade. Do you know him? I have something to give him, he asked loudly, trying to speak over the noise of the children. Before the guard could answer, a middle-aged woman in a strict, mouse-coloured suit on the other side of the turnstile overheard their conversation. Impatience was evident on her anxious face. Mr. Turner, she waved her hands in appeal. Let the man through. He's here for me. Pulling on her suit, the woman reprimanded, At last! We've been waiting for you. Blair raised his eyebrows in surprise, confused by her words. Are you talking to me? Who else? The woman frowned. You're here for Charlie Turner, aren't you? I am, but... Let's go, she interrupted him. Everyone's already gathered. We've been waiting for you. Honestly, we thought you wouldn't show up this time either. How many times have you ignored the director's requests? Intrigued, Blair followed the woman. She hurried ahead, chastising him along the way. It's unfortunate that you can't make time for school. It's very irresponsible. Your son is a troubled teenager that is going through a difficult transition period. He's become completely out of control. This isn't the first time we've called you. Really? Charlie is often disruptive, and now it's escalated. His behaviour is forcing us to take extreme measures. You should be aware of this. What did he do this time? The woman cast a judgmental glance at him, pressing her lips together. Reminds me of Patricia, Blair thought in surprise. She doesn't seem to like children, even though she works with them. Now you'll see for yourself. What can we expect from a boy when his parents don't know what their child is up to? All problems originate from the family. Blair wanted to confess he had no relation to Charlie and didn't understand what was expected from him. However, he stayed silent, especially because the woman wouldn't let him speak, blaming the boy's behaviour. They stopped in front of a door labelled Headmaster. The woman opened the door and joyfully announced, Well, we have finally met Charlie's father. Now I'm sure we'll resolve all issues. Come in, she gestured to a chair. Blair surveyed those present and quickly assessed the situation. I'm not going to dissuade these nice people that Charlie isn't my son. Let's see what kind of accusations they're making against him. It seems like he's having a tough time. Blair studied Charlie, who appeared frightened and pale. Yes, this was the boy he was looking for. Charlie shot a fearful glance at him, immediately recognized his acquaintance from the day before, and recoiled even further. Well, it's clear with him, Blair thought to himself. The boy thinks I came because of the car. Then Blair saw the boy who had pushed Charlie onto his car. And this is presumably the victim of Charlie. This boy sat with a frown, displaying a fresh black eye. Looks like he got what he deserved. Let's see what Charlie is being accused of. Did he really beat him up? I wouldn't have believed it. Charlie doesn't behave like that. It's obvious at first glance. Why is everyone ganging up on him? Meanwhile, the principal started speaking. So, Mr. Turner, this is Ben Hamilton. The woman pointed at the bruised boy. And this is his mother. See what your son has done to the boy. We can't ignore this fight. We have to react. This is outrageous, exclaimed the victim's mother. You're a well-presented man, but you've failed to raise your son properly. Look what your little criminal did to my boy. Mrs. Hamilton, dressed in tight jeans with greasy hair, pulled her son closer and kissed the top of his blonde head. I won't let this go, she roared, shaking her fist, causing her double chin to wobble. I'll make sure your son ends up behind bars. Next time, he'll think twice before raising his hand. No one hurts my boy, and if you're here to defend Charlie, don't bother. Just stop coddling him. We've tolerated this for too long. It looks like Charlie's getting a hard time here, Blair thought to himself. No amount of reasoning can shatter this woman's conviction that her son is the victim. Although, after yesterday's encounter, he likely received a well-deserved jab in the eye. It seems the bully didn't recognize me, so I can play along with Charlie. I suppose no one has met his real father. Is there even a father? Maybe there's no one to defend Charlie. Let's adopt the role of protector. I wonder why his mother didn't come. Did the boy not warn her? He promised a non-existent father would appear, and here I am with his school diary. Stop yelling, Blair said softly but with a resolute voice, frowning and calmly staring into the beady eyes of Ben's mother. Remember, you're not speaking at the market. I came not to take sides, but to determine who is right and who is truly at fault. The woman fell silent out of surprise. Mr. Turner, the director started, but Blair gave her a piercing look and she faltered. Well done, son. He turned to the stunned Charlie. You can defend yourself. You should have put those bullies in their place a long time ago. You did the right thing. I'm on your side. Well, you know, the principal said indignantly, I didn't expect such words to you. How can you support Charlie's behaviour? What are you teaching him? I believe Ben got what he deserved. You know, I had no doubt that they were identical. Shaking her fist, Ben's mother squealed. He only appears decent. He thinks that if he wears an expensive coat, he can do anything. Don't you think we'll find a way to deal with you? Dear Mrs. Hamilton, Blair spoke calmly, does your son not mention how he and his friends bully the one who can't defend himself? 4 against 1? I doubt you're aware of your child's activities. You're lying. My son is not a bully. If he hit someone, it was only in defence. I have a good, kind boy who wouldn't hurt a fly. Ben's mother turned crimson. You are very mistaken about your son, Blair replied, without changing his tone. I witnessed your son and his friend's misconduct. If Charlie was able to fend off those who bullied him, he did well. It seems your son only understands force, as words do not affect him. I'm sure that Charlie tried to reason with him. Maybe some other kids have fallen victim to his gang as well. Why don't you want to hear Charlie's side of the story? Something tells me you didn't even give him a chance to explain what really happened. Who are you to tell me how to live my life? The woman became angry. And you're slandering my boy? Did you hear that? She looked around at the adults in the room, seeking support. Everyone heard his accusations against my son. My son is the one with the black eye, and your son is looking at everyone like a wolf. Do you expect me to believe he's innocent? I won't stay quiet. I'll find a solution. If the school doesn't back me, I'll go to the police. Your Charlie should be on a register. He's the troublemaker. This time he won't get away with it. I'll see this through. Start with your son. He'll have to answer first, Blair retorted. Do you have proof of what you're accusing my boy of? The woman asked him. I'll sue you for false accusation too. Where's the proof? Just words. You want proof? I have plenty, Blair responded coldly. I have video footage of Ben and 3 of his friends pushing Charlie into the roadway, endangering his life and health. They also scratched an expensive car. Are you ready to pay for the repairs? Be grateful I haven't reported the incident to the police yet." "Ben!" the woman gasped, her face turning pale. She shifted her angry gaze to her son. Ben lowered his eyes, his shoulders slumped. His bravado and confidence evaporated instantly. He realized the power dynamic had shifted against him. "You little scoundrel!" his mother screamed, immediately grasping the truth behind the man's words. She spun around and slapped her son. "What are you trying to do? Drive me to an early grave? You told me Charlie attacked you first. So you're the instigator, you little beast." She swung at her son again. "If I'd known, I wouldn't have defended you. I wouldn't have had to go to school and embarrass myself." "Mrs. Hamilton." The principal was taken aback by the mother's behaviour. "What are you doing? Stop this immediately. You're in an educational institution, not at your home." "At home? I don't know what I would have done to this fool," the mother yelled. Ben looked at her warily, rubbing his reddened chest. "And what did you do too, with your friends? And I, the fool, believed you, felt sorry for you. Tell me, did you really scratch the car?" Ben looked fearfully at his mother and nodded his head. "Apologise quickly. We don't have the money to pay for the damages, and we will have a serious talk at home." Ben began to mutter a faint apology. Blair stood up. "I think Ben has understood and realised everything, don't you?" He looked at the boy, who nodded sullenly. "Let's end this here. I hope this situation doesn't repeat. I won't make a complaint this time, but I will if this continues. You all," he addressed the principal and the teacher, "should pay more attention to the children's behaviour at school. Have a lovely day." He led Charlie to the corridor. "I found this on the sidewalk." The man handed Charlie his school diary with a smile. "I thought you might be in trouble if you lost it. I guess my visit was timely." "Thanks," Charlie replied, putting the diary in his backpack. "Thanks," Charlie replied, putting the diary in his backpack. "I haven't had breakfast today. Is there something to eat?" "Yes, in the cafeteria." "You can keep me company. You're late for class anyway, and you can use the excuse of meeting with the principal," Blair said. "I agree," the boy replied cheerfully. "We have gym class now, and I don't really like gym class." "Yeah?" Blair raised his eyebrows in surprise. "I thought you were an outstanding athlete. You ran away from me yesterday, so much so that I didn't even try to catch up with you." Charlie laughed. In his eyes Blair saw gratitude, relief, and something else that made his eyes suddenly hot. He blinked a few times, trying to chase away the returning tears. "Well," he said cheerfully, overcoming a moment's weakness, "show me where your dining room is." They took some still warm buns for two, took some tea and sat down at a table. "Thank you, of course," Charlie said, "but why did you introduce yourself as my dad? The deception will be revealed someday, and it will be embarrassing. Mum will be angry. She doesn't like lies. You'll get in trouble. Let's start with the fact that I can't stand to see anyone wronged undeservedly," Blair replied. "To be honest, I didn't intend to pose as your father, but I had to act based on the circumstances. I had no choice, so I staged this act in front of the principal and Ben's mum. I couldn't stand by and watch them deliberately accuse you of something you didn't do. And the second reason is, I was teased as a child for being fatherless. How could I abandon a comrade in misfortune?" Charlie listened to Blair, his mouth slightly ajar, his attentive, curious eyes fixed on the man. "It can't be!" the boy exclaimed. "You are so—" He couldn't find the words to express his admiration for the man sitting opposite him. "Believe me, I wasn't always like this," Blair began. "I don't remember my father, but no one stopped me from dreaming of a better life. I made myself into the person you see now. I set goals and I pursued them. It was difficult, but I never gave up. That's why today I have everything I ever dreamed of. A prestigious job, a car, a house, and I achieved it all through perseverance and hard work." "I'll never be like you," Charlie sighed sadly. "You'll definitely achieve what you want," Blair encouraged, looking into Charlie's eyes and putting a hand on his shoulder. "The key is not to blame others when you fail, or to hold grudges against those who wrong you. Overcoming difficulties only makes us stronger. Do you know how many times I was beaten as a child? But I endured, never showing fear to those who hurt me. You should eat, Blair suggested. I can buy you more buns if you like. They're perfect here. No, thank you, Charlie replied, embarrassed. Now, why do you need money? Is there something you want to buy? Are you saving up for a cell phone or a tablet? I wanted to help my mum, Charlie admitted quietly, looking down. It's just the two of us. I see how hard she works and how little she rests. I'm old enough to earn some money. I want to save and give it to her. I'm a man and should help my mum. And where is your father? Why doesn't he help? He left us when I was very young. I haven't heard from him since. I always wished he would show up, perhaps for a school event, and be proud of me, but he disappeared, and I don't even remember him. Does your mum know how you make money? Does she let you do that? After all, it's very dangerous to be on the roadway. No, you just don't tell her, Charlie responded, looking at Blair fearfully, or she'll scold me. She won't let me even think about doing anything else but school. I'm a good student, so I have time to do my homework and work while Mum isn't home. And where does your mum work? What does she do? She's a technical translator, but they don't pay much. But it's stable. And she is afraid to quit and find better work because of me. It's good that you're a support for your mum, Blair said approvingly, looking at the boy. Yeah, the boy replied, eating his buns. I'd like to give my mum a big bouquet of flowers for her birthday, and it's been a long time since anyone gave her one. I'm the only man in the house. Mummy has no one else to rely on. Blair looked thoughtfully at the boy, and he was definitely fond of him. I won't make any promises, but I'll see what I can do about a better job. To achieve that, I need to meet your mum. Would it be okay if I stopped by for a visit? Sure, Charlie was glad. Come over. We don't get many visitors. I don't think my mum would mind. Great, then I'll get off at 7 and I'll come over. Make sure to warn your mum. All right, buddy. Blair stood up from the table. I have to go. You should head to class. They said goodbye in the school foyer and Blair went to work. As soon as he had a free moment, he visited the personnel department. Rita, he began, placing a bar of chocolate on the girl's desk. Do we have any vacancies for a technical translator? A woman around my age, with a teenage son? Well, the girl prolonged, tucking the chocolate bar away, that's a very specialized role, and we don't have anything suitable. However, we do need a secretary referent. We're looking to fill that position. Would your friend be able to do it? Maybe. Blair's mind churned with an idea. Our company pays well, and it's not easy to get in, but I think I could arrange a job for Charlie's mum. However, I need to meet her first and see her skills. My wish to help someone isn't enough. Around 7 p.m., a black BMW pulled into the courtyard of a high-rise building and parked in an available spot. From a distance, a man spotted Charlie, who was waiting for him on a bench at the entrance. Noticing the familiar car, Charlie stood up and waved. Hi, Charlie. Where's your mum? Blair asked, exiting the car and walking towards the boy. Did you tell her I was coming by? Yes, I did, but she hasn't returned from work yet. Although, here she comes now. Blair turned and saw a slender woman in a simple coat rushing towards them. Her coat suited her petite figure well, and she wore a knitted hat with a pom-pom. Is that your mother? Blair asked in surprise, looking at her. No way. Charlie's mother, Annie, appeared very young, almost like a girl. The woman seemed slightly nervous as she approached Blair. Hello, she said, panting. You're Blair, right? My name is Annie. Please forgive me for making you wait. She blushed. Now, Blair clearly understood why boorish Mrs. Hamilton didn't like this woman. It was her external calmness and inner intelligence that was immediately noticeable. Thank you so much for standing up after Charlie. I feel bad that you had to pretend to be his father. My son told me everything. We don't keep secrets from each other. Oh, that's perfectly fine. The man replied. I was more than happy to help Charlie out of an awkward situation. I genuinely care about his problems. I don't know how to thank you. The woman hesitated for a second, then suddenly suggested, Why don't you come and have tea with us, if you're not in a rush? With pleasure, agreed Blair. Annie and Charlie's apartment was cosy, filled with the aroma of baked goods and apples. This is what I always miss, Blair thought as he settled into an old chair covered with a crocheted seat cover. Patricia would scoff and wrinkle her nose in distaste if she were here. I can't imagine her handling knitting needles or a crochet hook. Our home is stylish and trendy, but it lacks soul and genuine comfort. Strange, but here I can relax. It's cosy. Help yourselves, Annie said, presenting a cup of fragrant hot tea, a plate of pies and a vase of jam. We live modestly. It must be strange for you to see our lifestyle. Thank you, Blair replied, tasting the strawberry jam. He even closed his eyes, savouring its flavour. I haven't had jam like this since my childhood at my grandmother's house. Annie, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, so nothing surprises me. But I'm here on business. Blair turned serious. I want to offer you a job as a secretary in our company. I supposed we can offer you higher salary and welfare packager than at your current company. Charlie told me you have a technical degree, correct? The woman nodded and Blair continued. Then I'm confident you're the right person for the job. Oh, the woman exclaimed. What if I can't do it? I don't have any experience as a secretary. I don't want to let you down after you've vouched for me. Don't worry, the man assured her. You're smart. I'll help you get the hang of things and give you pointers when needed. You're articulate, so you'll handle visitors well. You're fluent in French and German, right? The woman nodded in agreement. Great, that's all I need. This is a unique opportunity. I've never used my influence to get someone a job before. I'm scared a little, Annie confessed. Your company is prestigious. I've never worked for a company like that. Everyone has to start somewhere, right? Blair responded. It might be intimidating, but you can do it. So, how long do you need to decide? Can I take some time to think it over and then call you? Annie requested. Sure, I'll wait for your call, the man agreed, standing up from the table with a hint of regret. I should get going now. Of course, you must have family waiting at home, Annie acknowledged. Thank you for everything. Goodbye, Charlie, the man said, shaking the boy's hand firmly. I hope your bullies leave you alone from now on, but remember, you can always call me if you need anything. After warmly saying goodbye to the mother and son, Blair left their apartment. 20 minutes later, he parked in front of his house. He unlocked the door, entered the hallway, and took off his shoes, all the while smiling at the memory of the evening spent with Annie and Charlie's family. The smell of baked goods and apples still lingered in his nose. And where have you been? Patricia's disgruntled voice snapped him back to reality. She stood in a thin, see-through negligee, beneath which expensive lace lingerie was visible. What are you smiling about? Why did you come home so late? At work, Blair replied, his good mood evaporating instantly. You're lying. Tell me where you've been. I called, but your phone was off. Would it kill you to let me know you'd be late? You never consider me. What does it matter where I've been? Blair retorted as he walked into the living room, noticing the set table. I'm your wife. I was worried. Really? Blair said calmly, slowly undoing the buttons on his shirt. Do you even know what that feeling is? Are you trying to hurt me? I was genuinely worrying about you. What are we celebrating? Blair asked, gesturing towards the table. I thought I'd do something nice for you for a change. I want to spend the evening with you. You know I can't stay mad at you for long. Oh, really? Blair said mockingly. You don't hold a grudge against me anymore? Yes, I want to reconcile. Why don't you believe me? I prepared dinner. You mean you ordered from a restaurant? The husband clarified. What difference does it make? Why are you mincing words? Yes, I ordered dinner. Put on the best lingerie. Look! She opened her robe, and Blair took in his wife's flawless figure. And you're out somewhere, refusing to explain anything. I wasn't loitering. I was busy with errands. What business could there be after work? Have you checked the time? You're supposed to be home with your wife after work, and you didn't even thank me for the dinner. After a few seconds of silence, Patricia changed her tone abruptly and came up to her husband, attempting to embrace him. Dear, please don't be angry. You know I hate it when you're upset. Come on, honey, smile, hug me. I missed you. Shall we head to the bedroom? I think it was you who stopped talking to me. Correct me if I'm wrong. Why are you so ungrateful? Patricia exclaimed, pushing him away. I do everything for you, yet you're always dissatisfied. She was on the verge of tears. You don't love me, despite promising to be by my side forever? Patricia, if you wanted to reconcile, you wouldn't be accusing me. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep in the study. Fine. Go then, you ingrate. I don't want to see you. Spend your evenings wherever you want, she shouted after him. I gave you the best years of my life, and you do not appreciate me. Blair retreated to his study, escaping her shrill voice. He heard her deliberately moving furniture and clanging dishes before all went quiet. Blair got ready for work earlier than usual then. After a quick snack, he got in his car and headed for the office. He had to introduce Annie to the management. The woman was already waiting for him near the office, her cheeks flushed and her eyes sparkling with sincere joy. I'm so worried. What if your director doesn't like me? You'll be fine, I promise. Blair led her past the security guards and into the director's office. Mr. Hartford, this is Annie. He introduced her to the CEO. I've reviewed your documents, the man said, looking at her. A higher education, fluent in German and French. It's a pity you have no experience as a secretary. I promise, Blair quickly spoke up. I'll bring her up to speed. I assure you, you won't regret hiring such a valuable employee. She will do well. Well, Mr. Hartford grinned, since she's your protégée, Blair, you can familiarise her with her duties. I'll set a trial period of 2 weeks. Let's see how you do. Agreed? Thank you, Mr. Hartford, Blair responded to his boss. As they left the CEO's office, the man said cheerfully, There you go. Half the job is done. Now it's just about handling the smaller tasks. And what if I can't cope? Annie voiced her doubt. I would be ashamed to let you down. Do not worry. The work of a secretary is not difficult. This is your desk, he said, pointing towards it. Are you comfortable using a computer? Sure, I work on it all the time. Good. Handling documentation, managing the general's daily schedule, and organising meetings. That's your job. Here are the job descriptions. Study them carefully. I believe you'll get the hang of it as you go through these folders full of documents. The phone on the table beeped. Annie looked anxiously at Blair. He calmly pressed the button and looked at her encouragingly. Annie, Mr. Hartford's voice came through. I need a cup of coffee and today's schedule. Oh, Annie was confused. Where will I find all of this? Don't be frightened, Blair reassured her. Here, he said, opening the door next to the director's office, is a small kitchen. You'll find coffee and everything you need. The list of meetings is in the planner on your desk. You can look at it while going through the paperwork. I've shown you everything in general terms. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you, Blair, Annie responded warmly. Blair was captivated by her. Dressed modestly, she resembled a model schoolgirl. Her hair was neatly styled, and her discreet makeup enhanced her pretty face. Her large blue eyes were expressive and open. Feeling a sweet ache in his heart, Blair found it difficult to leave her. He swallowed nervously, startled by his own thoughts. I'll be off. I have work to do. he said. Annie was a valuable employee. Within a week she had mastered her role as a secretary. Blair admired her. She's so different from Patricia, he thought. She's interesting, intelligent, well-read. There's no talk of shopping or beauty salons, or complaints about her friends' husbands buying new cars while she has to make do with an old one. Why didn't I see this before? Why didn't I notice that my wife, decked out in expensive clothes, is just an empty-headed doll? He chuckled to himself. I guess I had no one to compare her to. Thoughts of Annie began to occupy Blair's mind more frequently. After work, Blair returned home to a chilling silence. His wife didn't even glance in his direction, pretending to be engrossed in her phone. That night, Blair slept in his study again. In the morning, his wife paraded around in a silk robe, showcasing her seductive, tanned, immaculate legs. But the sight of his gorgeous wife didn't stir any feelings in Blair. All week, Patricia sulked, waiting for him to make the first move and apologize. He tried to linger at work as long as possible, looking for reasons to see Annie. Some days he was so busy he couldn't meet her, which made him miserable. Blair realized that he wasn't thinking about his wife anymore, but was consumed by thoughts of another woman. "Why are you still here?" Blair asked, noticing the light on in the director's office. The staff have already left, and only Annie was still at her desk, buried in paperwork. Annie looked up and smiled. "I want to finish what I started. There's not much left. I don't like leaving things half done. I've already told Charlie. He's a mature boy and he understands." "May I wait for you? Afterwards we could grab a coffee," Blair suggested. "Why not come to us? Charlie would be delighted," Annie proposed. "I'd be happy to," Blair agreed. Charlie was waiting for his mother. He had set the table and warmed up dinner. Excited, he ran to the hallway to greet Blair. "Hello, buddy. How are you doing? No one's bothering you any more?" the man asked. "No," Charlie answered, shaking his hand. "Good to hear," Blair responded. "Charlie," Annie gently called, "please set another place at the table. Blair," she turned to the man, "would you like to join us for dinner?" "With pleasure," Blair complimented her. "I'm lucky to have a son." Annie affectionately stroked his curly head. "I don't know how I'd manage without him." "Eat," the woman interrupted, "or it will get cold. I would like to thank you again, Blair. You have done so much for us. I don't know how I can repay you for your kindness." "My mum promised to buy me a laptop," Charlie bragged. "Yes," Annie nodded. "The salary allows it, and the boy can't do without a computer today. He's doing well in math. Charlie dreams of becoming an IT specialist in the future, so a computer is simply necessary. And ours is very old, only good for simple tasks." Blair looked at Annie and Charlie. He hated to leave this hospitable house, but until the issue with his wife was resolved, he could only dream of Annie. "Thank you very much." The man finally rose from the table. "I must be going now." "Will you come and see us again?" Charlie asked. "If your mum says it's okay." Blair looked at Annie. "I'll come." "We'd be glad to," replied the woman quietly. She lowered her head to hide the hope that flashed in her eyes. Annie knew that Blair was married. Later that evening, Blair found his wife at home, still on the same sofa in the living room. "Honey!" Patricia rushed to her husband, hugged him, and pressed her body against his. "I no longer want to quarrel with you. I'm sorry. I know I can be unbearable sometimes, but a woman can be forgiven, can't she?" She kissed him. "I want you, right now." Patricia playfully began to undo the buttons on his shirt, then laughed. Blair stood silently, not reacting to his wife's actions. "Let's go to the table," she said, pulling him by the arm. "I ordered something delicious for you. You like seafood, right? I prepared it specially for you. Open a bottle of champagne. I've realized my mistakes. I miss you." She looked at her husband with a melancholic gaze and caressed his hand with her manicured fingers. "It's cold sleeping alone." "Aren't you punishing me too harshly?" By refusing to share our bed? I understand you're tired from work. I can give you a massage. She moved her hands around his neck, stroking his shoulders and ruffling his hair. Honey, you seem uninterested, and I'm bored without you, so I got angry. I promise I'll try to control myself. How about going to a nightclub? You'll have a good time. You can't work all the time. We can have a drink and dance. What do you think? The man looked at his wife, and her voice, manner and behaviour all irritated him. Patricia, we need to talk. Blair moved away from her embrace. Sit down, please, and hear me out. You're so serious, she responded, slightly taken aback. Well, speak. She smiled sweetly. She settled on the couch, adjusted her dress, and crossed her graceful hands on her knees. Patricia, we need to break up. What? The smile slid off her face. Is this some kind of joke? No, I want to divorce you. Oh, you do? She narrowed her eyes, anger sparking in them. And I had a feeling you were staying late at work for a reason. But I refuse to believe that you could leave me. Have you found someone else? I won't deny it, Blair replied, looking at her straight in the eyes. I met another woman and loved her. I don't want to lie. I don't want to hide anything from you. We've become strangers lately, and you feel it yourself. And where did you meet her, I wonder? Office romance. My God, that's vulgar. That's not important. What's important is that I met my son as well. Imagine that. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's precisely what happened. Son? Patricia's eyes widened in surprise. Are you crazy? You never had a son? I didn't, Blair agreed. But now I can say that I have. Where did he come from? What kind of nonsense you're talking? My darling, do you have a fever? She put a cold palm to her forehead. I'm not joking. Sometimes a stranger can become kin instantly. Oh, I get it. You're calling that ragamuffin as your son. Patricia suddenly guessed. Blair, are you crazy? He's a little criminal, and his mother is probably the same. They deceive you, pretend to be unhappy, offended by life. But you shouldn't believe them. They don't want you. They want your money. What can she give you? What is she? A dishwasher? A secretary? Blair, how low you've sunk. Stop insulting them. She may give me care and warmth. Something that has always been missing in our relationship. Tears welled up in Patricia's eyes. Is this how you treat me? She exclaimed. I've stood by your side all these years, and then some stranger comes along and ruins our marriage. Blair, you can't do this to me. It's not fair. We love each other. I understand you want a child, and a grown boy has appeared. I even admit that you're interested in him. But once you've had your fun, then what? Please, don't destroy our relationship. I'm willing to forgive this affair, but stop before you do something you'll regret. We're a family. We don't have a family, and you know it, Blair retorted. I know why you're trying to keep me. You're afraid of losing the comfort you've enjoyed these past years. How could you think that of me? Patricia sobbed. I love you. Weren't we good together? I appreciate everything, Blair said, but I've always wanted children. You don't. I hoped you would understand and we could be parents. But it seems your maternal instinct was lost at birth. Find a man who doesn't want children. I believe you'll find him and be happy. I won't give you a divorce, Patricia said, attempting once more to hold on to her husband. Don't think I'll just hand you over to some hustler. I knew you'd be against it, so I'm offering you a settlement. Will you agree to sign the divorce papers if I pay you this amount? Blair put a piece of paper in front of his wife, with numbers written on it. I think this amount is more than fair for a divorce certificate. If you manage this money wisely, you can live comfortably for a while. So, do you agree? Blair noticed Patricia's hesitation. And where will I live? After all, this house was built before our marriage, she asked. I'll rent you a place to live for a while, but you have your parents' apartment to live in, Blair responded. Okay, said Patricia. I'll give you the divorce, but one thing I don't understand is what makes this woman better than me? And remember, if you ever decide to come back, it won't be easy. I won't be returning. I have other plans for my future, Blair replied. A month later, Blair received the divorce certificate, and he finally could woo Annie. He waited for her after work with flowers. Seeing her, she smiled. Annie, these are for you. He held out the bouquet. I would like to invite you to a cafe. I hope Charlie won't mind if it's just the two of us. We need to talk. Over coffee, Annie admired the bouquet. I haven't received flowers in a long time, she confessed. I'd like to give them to you every day, Blair said seriously. Blair, Annie blushed. You know that's not possible. You're a married man, and I don't want to be the subject of office gossip. Annie, I've divorced my wife. I want to be with you and Charlie. I want to take care of you. Will you let me do that? I confess I've liked you for a long time. I've been enchanted by you from the first moment I met you. I wanted to say these words, but I knew you wouldn't let me while I was married. You're too decent to accept the attentions of a married man, but now nothing else stands in our way. From that evening, Blair and Annie's relationship began to develop rapidly. Blair spent a lot of time with her and Charlie. After 6 months, he decided to propose. One weekend, while they were relaxing in a park, Blair mischievously suggested, Who is brave and ready to ride on the Ferris wheel? Me, I'm ready, Charlie exclaimed with joy. Mum, are you coming? I'm ready to go anywhere with you, Annie laughed. After Blair bought the tickets, they took their seats in the booth. How beautiful, Charlie said enthusiastically, pressing his nose against the glass. Now I know how birds see the city. Annie, Blair began, looking at her intently. I've been looking for the right moment to tell you this. He took a velvet box out of his pocket and opened it. Charlie, would you mind if I proposed to your mother? No, I'd be delighted. Mum, please say yes. Annie, will you marry me? Blair asked, nervously waiting for an answer. Blair, Annie answered, embarrassed. This is all so sudden. She hesitated. Mum, say yes. Annie, do you agree? Blair reiterated. I agree. The woman smiled. Blair laughed. Charlie clapped his hands while Annie slid a ring onto her finger. Well, what are you waiting for? Charlie urged them. Kiss already. If you're shy, I can look away. Blair and Annie laughed happily. The man lightly kissed his beloved. Then he hugged her. She leaned against him trustingly, looking into his eyes. In them, Blair saw the words, I love you. And he answered her with a look that said, And I love you.
Rick, don't be so selfish. For once in your life, do as I ask. How stubborn are you? Is it really so difficult? You act as if I'm sending you to a predator's den, when I'm merely asking you to meet my business partner's daughter.
David said resentfully, looking at his son reproachfully. Rick sat cross-legged on a sofa in the luxurious living room, pretending to correspond with someone. His father stood beside him, having spent hours pleading with his son to go on a date with his business partner's daughter. The young man was reluctant to spend an evening with a girl he had never met. He had only heard that his father's associate was eager to introduce his lonely, beautiful daughter to the future heir of a vast fortune. Rick had no desire to waste his time on local millionaires' daughters, whom he considered spoiled and incapable of surprising or charming him. Accustomed to being the centre of attention and feeling like the king of women's hearts, he couldn't be impressed by mere flashy appearances, exquisite taste, or expensive clothes. He was certain that this rich man's daughter had nothing to offer but what he already had in abundance. The handsome young son of a large trading company's CEO was considered the town's most eligible bachelor. He was the cherished dream and primary target of many local beauties. Rick was constantly surrounded by attractive, well-mannered girls. Yet deep down, he felt lonely. He knew he hadn't found true happiness yet, believing it awaited him somewhere in the future. "Father, how many times must I ask you not to introduce me to your friends' and partners' daughters?" Rick said angrily. "You needn't meddle in my private life or pressure me. I'll decide for myself when and with whom I date. I'm not a child, so stop trying to impose your will on me. I'm leaving. Don't wait up, I'll be back in the morning." With that, Rick shot his father a defiant look and hurriedly left the luxurious mansion in the city's best district. He was furious with his father's persistent attempts to match him with a worthy match, the daughters of his acquaintances and friends. Rick had no interest in building relationships with them, believing that fate would bring the right person into his life when the time was right. The young man went to a cafe where he often relaxed with his only friend. Todd, like Rick, was also the son of a wealthy man. The friends sat by the lakeshore, enjoying the breathtakingly beautiful sunset and fresh air. Rick indignantly told his friend about his father's relentless attempts to introduce him to his partner's daughter. "It's surely another shallow girl in a Versace dress," Rick chuckled. "A brainless walking doll in designer clothes. I'm not interested in talking to such ladies. I've seen plenty of them already." "You're wrong, buddy." Todd shook his head disapprovingly. "You haven't even met this girl, yet you've already formed an unfair opinion of her. You can't judge someone without talking to them and getting to know them well. In my view, girls simply spoil you with attention. Are you any better than those you've been dating and spending nights with in clubs and bars? If you weren't a rich man's son, you wouldn't think this way. Intelligence doesn't depend on wealth or the cost of one's clothes. Do you see that girl collecting garbage on the shore?" The friends simultaneously looked at a young red-haired woman in a simple denim dress. She held a garbage bag in one hand while picking up litter left by vacationers with the other. The stranger hurriedly tossed empty lemonade bottles and wrappers into her large bag. She looked tired and worn out. It was unusually hot that day, and she glanced enviously at passing girls holding bottles of cold drinks. "I see her, so what?" Rick muttered irritably. "What can you say about her? She's clearly not wearing a Versace or Valentino. If a rich man's daughter means nothing to you, then who is she? Maybe she's a real treasure. What do you think? Could you win her heart?" "What's there to do? Just an ordinary country girl who came to the big city for money and man. Don't make me laugh. What treasure? Look at her. She's got a pretty face, but nothing more. I doubt she's any different from millions of other girls trying to find their place in the sun. Can I win her over? Of course. Can I win her over? Of course I can," Rick said confidently. "I could charm a country girl in an hour. Want to see for yourself? I'll prove it to you. I think she's a tough nut to crack, and she's probably out of your league. Well, if you're so sure of yourself, try to win over this red-haired daughter of the sun. If you can, I'll fulfill your every wish. But you have to become like her to do it. For 3 months, give up your expensive car and the things you buy in high-end Italian boutiques. Become a simple worker in some factory. Win her over with an empty wallet. If she agrees to marry you,
a poor man in 3 months, I'll do whatever you want." "I accept the challenge," Rick replied thoughtfully, patting his friend's shoulder. "Soon enough, that simple girl will be chasing me day and night. You'll regret ever deciding to argue with me." "It's a deal. I'll bring you some ordinary workers' clothes today and buy you a cheap cell phone. We'll transform the golden boy beyond recognition." "You wanted something new? Here's your chance."
The next evening, Rick returned to the place where he had recently dined with his best friend. He left his expensive watch and Gucci suit at home, reluctantly putting on simple sport pants and an unremarkable white t-shirt that fit him perfectly. For the next 3 months, Rick had to give up his fancy car, which he sometimes talked to as a child, and moved into an old, used vehicle. He invented a new biography for himself, instantly transforming from an enviable bachelor and a rich man's son into a lonely cannery employee. Rick bought a cold lemonade and confidently approached the girl, who was diligently cleaning her assigned area. Sighing heavily and wiping sweat from her forehead, she looked tired as she swept. Rick coughed to draw her attention. When the red-haired stranger flinched in surprise and sharply raised her head, he smiled playfully and said in an affectionate voice, "I can't help but wonder who makes such a beautiful, fragile girl work under this scorching sun. That person must have no heart. I'd like to take this broom from you and stand in your place. I brought you a refreshing drink." Rick handed the girl a bottle of cold water. She looked at him with a scrutinizing gaze and replied, "Well, thank you. I was just dreaming of a cold drink. I didn't expect anyone to take pity on me. All right, noble prince, take the broom and sweep. I'll sit in the shade and rest." Robin abruptly handed the broom to the dazed Rick and, yawning carelessly, lowered herself into the nearby bench. Rick froze in surprise. He had never before held a broom, let alone swept with one. He looked at the red-haired girl, whose snow-white face bore a blissful smile. At that moment he realized that victory would not come as easily to him as he had expected. But there was no turning back. Rick started sweeping, clearly struggling and revealing his inexperience. Robin laughed and, looking at the embarrassed young man, said, "It looks like you've had your first ever introduction to a broom today. Congratulations! Why did you volunteer for a task you don't know how to do? Well, put it down over there. I'll take a short break and then get back to work. And thank you for your kindness." Rick said nothing. He carelessly tossed the broom on the ground and sat down next to the green-eyed stranger, who was still smiling mockingly. The young man gazed into her large emerald eyes and thought that a girl with such striking features shouldn't be holding a broom, but rather a diamond-studded piece of jewellery or a designer handbag. Of course, Rick knew that not everyone was as lucky as he was, for it was rare for a child to have the chance to be born into such a wealthy family. He had always been completely satisfied with his life and fate, never before considering how people without expensive cars and luxurious houses survive. "I confess, I've never swept before," he admitted, hanging his head in embarrassment. "I have a slightly different speciality. I work in a factory. We don't deal with brooms there." "Really?" Robin asked, surprise in her voice. "I can't tell from your hands that you work in a factory. They're very delicate and well-groomed." "It's just genetics. My mum had the same," Rick said with annoyance, amazed at the girl's attentiveness. "By the way, my name is Rick. May I know yours?" "Actually, I don't usually meet people on the street, but since you took pity on me, gave me cold water and offered to help, I'll make an exception. I'm Robin." While the young people were sitting on the bench, Rick used this time to learn as much as possible about his new acquaintance. It turned out that Robin had come from far away, failed her exams and now rented a room with a friend. She worked as a waitress and took on odd jobs in her spare time. Rick told Robin a fictitious story of his life, claiming that he had been left alone in his youth and had been surviving as best he could ever since. He said that he also rented a small room in a dormitory and saved every penny to someday move into his own apartment. My job is hard, of course, but I'm not complaining. The most important thing is that I earn my own bread. I don't ask anyone for help. I provide for myself as best I can. Yes, I don't have my own place or a cool car, but I sincerely believe that one day this will change, and I'll start to earn a decent living. I'll persistently work towards it. Nothing is impossible. There's only desire. Rick didn't notice how quickly time flew by. An unexpected phone call brought him back to reality. Perking up, he glanced at his watch and was stunned. He was late for a meeting with Todd, who was waiting for a detailed report on his acquaintance with Robin. Returning home, Rick hurriedly showered, changed his clothes, and getting into his favourite car, a gift from his father, went to meet his friend. Sitting behind the wheel, he recalled his long and fascinating conversation with Robin. The girl seemed quite nice and interesting to him. The young man caught himself thinking that he would like to continue communicating with her. Robin and Rick met again a couple of days later. They walked in the park, feeding ducks and pigeons. The young man, forgetting everything else, watched the red-haired girl, eagerly absorbing her every word. She attracted his attention by constantly surprising him. A guy spoiled by women's attention. When a stray dog suddenly ran up to the couple, Rick froze in fear, while Robin approached the fluffy creature and affectionately stroked the top of its head. The dog fell at the girl's feet and began licking her hands, which never stopped caressing its white head. "What are you doing? It's a stray dog. Take your hands off it. It might bite you, and you'll end up in hospital with rabies. What if it's carrying some terrible disease?" exclaimed Rick, looking at Robin, who was enthusiastically talking to the dog. "She won't bite," said Robin in a soft voice, smiling kindly. "This is an incredibly sweet, affectionate, gentle girl who has already grown fond of me. We quickly found a common language. She's healthy. She just had bad luck with her previous owners. See the scar next to her left eye?" Rick looked closely at the dog's snow-white face. He noticed a large scar near her left eye and was horrified. The young man realized that only a human could have left this terrible mark. He was shaken to his core by what he saw. He had never considered that many innocent, defenseless animals become victims of cruel, heartless people. Rick had never been interested in nature or animals before. He was much more concerned with endless parties in nightclubs and girls with whom he spent nights out. "Pet her," Robin said quietly, suddenly taking Rick's hand. "Don't be afraid, she won't bite you. She was once hurt terribly and almost left blind, but she remained kind and affectionate despite that. I feed her regularly. I can't take her in yet, but one day I will." Rick looked at the statuesque, beautiful girl whose red hair danced with sunbeams, and his heart filled with a trembling excitement he had never experienced before. The young man realized he had never met anyone remotely like Robin. To him, Robin was a wonderful book full of secrets, surprises, and riddles. He timidly touched the dog's soft head and smiled broadly. At that time, he himself had not yet suspected how much this brief moment, filled with touching tenderness and love, would influence his fate. "Tell me, friend, how are things on the personal front? Have you already charmed the red-haired provincial girl? Is it hard for you without a cool car and other luxuries of a rich life? All the girls used to fall at your feet, but now you'll have to work hard. Show the beauty of your soul to this woman, so she'll appreciate your character
not your wallet," Todd said in an ironic, pompous tone, looking at Rick curiously. Rick didn't hear his friend's impertinent words. His heart and thoughts were occupied with the girl he hadn't seen for 3 days. Robin had disappeared. She didn't answer her phone or come to work. It was as if she had vanished. Rick couldn't find peace, consumed by worry and an unbearable longing for her. He went to the cafe where Robin worked every day, but no one knew where she was. The young man realized he knew too little about the life of the girl he had begun to care for. The fact seriously upset him. Rick walked around with a sullen look, noticing nothing around him. "Stop mocking me," he muttered angrily, looking at Todd. "I haven't seen Robin for 3 days now. It's like she's vanished into thin air. She doesn't come to work, she doesn't answer her phone. I don't know what to do." "What concerns you more? Her sudden disappearance, or that the risk of losing the bet has increased dramatically since she vanished?" "I don't give a damn about the bet," exclaimed Rick. "I'm worried about Robin. What if something's happened to her? She has no one to stand up for her. She's alone in a big city with no money and no connections. What if Robin's in trouble?" Suddenly, Rick's cell phone rang. He pulled his smartphone out of his pocket with a sigh and saw that it was his father calling. The young man reluctantly pressed the phone to his ear and quietly said hello. Mr. Tyson asked his son to urgently go to his business partner's house and pick up some documents. Rick had no desire to go to the other side of the city and solve his father's problems, but he couldn't refuse. His father's driver had suddenly fallen ill, and his assistant was busy with another important matter. Rick quickly said goodbye to Todd and got into the car. Mr. Tyson's business partner lived in a luxurious Mediterranean-style villa with an amazing panoramic view and a huge swimming pool. Rick, who had thought nothing could surprise him any more, was impressed. But he was even more surprised when he saw Robin standing not far from the pool, talking to the maids. The young man froze, unable to believe his eyes. Just a few meters away stood the very person he had been desperately searching for. Robin also noticed Rick and was stunned. The girl ran up to the dazed guy and exclaimed, "Rick, how did you find me? What are you doing here?" I was going to ask you the same question. You suddenly disappeared. I haven't been able to find you for 3 days. I was sure something had happened to you. I was worried. And you?" "Rick," Robin said, touching his arm, "let's talk outside and I'll explain everything to you, okay?" The young man nodded and followed the girl. Once outside, Rick, forgetting why he had come, began to question her confusedly. "I work here as a maid," said Robin, looking intently into the guy's bewildered eyes. "I just got the job. I'm sorry I've been missing. I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone these days. I needed some time to adjust. What are you doing here?" "The plant manager asked me to give the landlord of this house some documents, so I couldn't refuse," Rick said, saying the first thing that came to mind. "I missed you terribly. I realized I couldn't live another day without you. Let's meet tonight, shall we?" The young man gently touched the girl's cheek, and she shuddered in surprise. Robin stared into Rick's burning eyes and sighed languidly, feeling her composure slipping away. She was drawn to Rick, and this intoxicating attraction drove her wild, enveloping her consciousness in a blissful fog. The young couple agreed to meet that evening on the embankment and parted ways. Rick forgot his father's request. It no longer concerned him. He had also forgotten about the bet he had made with his friend Todd. Rick and Robin watched the dawn together for the first time, creating vivid memories that would last a lifetime. They walked hand in hand along the embankment. At midnight, a heavy rain began to fall, but even its power couldn't tear the lovers apart. Thick raindrops ran down their faces,
unnoticed. Rick realized he had fallen for this gentle, affectionate girl with fire-colored hair. When she was near, his heart raced and his soul soared, experiencing an intoxicating bliss, an unparalleled joy. "Wait," Robin whispered, her voice trembling as she pulled away from Rick's lips to catch her breath. "This isn't right. I can't do this. I have to go. We won't work out. We're making a mistake." "What?" Rick gasped, shocked. "Why? You want to leave me? We're so good together, aren't we? What's wrong? Don't you love me? Or is it something else? Is it because I have nothing and I'm just a factory worker?" "It's not about you. There's no future for us. I have to stop this before it goes too far. We shouldn't see each other anymore. Don't look at me like that. You're breaking my heart. I don't want to hurt you, which is why I have to end it. Our relationship isn't going anywhere good." Rick pulled Robin closer, his kisses transporting her to a world of intoxicating pleasure, finally silencing the voice of reason. Robin, realizing she couldn't, and didn't want to, resist, surrendered to the tender embrace of the man who had turned her life upside down. Rick was happy with Robin, and grew more convinced each day that he had found his soulmate. He wanted to tell her the truth about who he really was, but fear held him back. It frightened him that Robin, unknowingly, made him think about family and children, something he'd never considered before. The young man worried about how his father would react to the news that he wanted to bring home a simple provincial maid. He was certain his father wouldn't be pleased to hear his only son had gotten involved with a girl from a different social class. But Rick wasn't going to back down. He was ready to fight desperately for his happiness and love. "Hey, buddy, where have you disappeared to?" Todd exclaimed when the friends met. "I don't recognize you at all. You're not yourself. You don't talk about your amour adventures anymore. You work hard. You're home every night. Are you in love? Has that redhead charmed you so quickly? I thought we were just playing around, but you seem to have a serious crush on the perky girl. I wanted to teach you a lesson, but I think I overdid it. You'll have to propose to Robin soon. Remember, I don't know what's going on, but our bet is still on. She has to say yes, and you have to get her answer on tape. Only then will I admit defeat." His friend's words made Rick contemplate marriage. He wanted to marry Robin, but not because of the bet. The young man no longer doubted that he had found the one. Although Rick and Robin had known each other for only 2 months, it was enough time for both to realize they were made for each other. Rick recognized that he truly loved Robin and was ready to commit his life to her. He was confident in her loyalty, honesty, and kindness. Only one thing troubled him: the lies present in their relationship. Rick decided to have a serious talk with Robin at their next meeting and confess that he had deceived her by pretending to be poor. The young man bought an expensive ring, intending to propose to Robin. This time, Rick didn't don his unattractive labourer's clothes. Instead, he chose a suit from a famous designer. After tidying himself up, he set off to meet his beloved, brimming with love and excitement. Seeing Robin, Rick smiled broadly and waved. He ran up to her and leaned in for a kiss, but instead received a stinging slap. Stunned, he looked at the girl and saw tears rolling down her cheeks. Robin's face was a mix of confusion and hurt. "How could you do this?" she asked. "You were just playing with me all this time, weren't you? I trusted you. And you... Robin, what happened?" he blurted out, staring at the sobbing girl. "What are you talking about? What did I do wrong?" "Don't pretend you don't understand. You know perfectly well," she said. "You played your part brilliantly. Bravo! I give you a standing ovation. Tired of wearing cheap clothes? Decided to pull your favourite Armani suit out of the closet?
How could I be so stupid? Your friend told me about your bet. I know why you started courting me. You just wanted to win the bet and prove to your friend that you were clever. You had 3 months to propose to me. Why didn't you say something until now? You should have asked me to marry you a month ago." Rick was shocked by what he heard. He was speechless with surprise, not expecting such a turn of events. Todd's betrayal shook him to the core. Rick couldn't imagine that a close friend could betray him like this. After all, he himself was going to tell Robin almost the whole truth. It should have been him, not Todd. Rick had no doubt that the girl would have accepted the truth more calmly if he had talked to her frankly himself. Rick was seething with anger. His blood boiled with rage at the despicable act of a man he had considered his loyal friend. The girl's tears caused him heartache as he realized he had made an irreparable mistake. "Robin, I've wronged you terribly," Rick exclaimed. "I lied to you. I bet with Todd and started meeting you because I wanted to win a bet. But that was only at the beginning, believe me. Robin, as I got to know you, I fell in love for real. You're the best thing God has sent me, a true treasure. I love you madly and can't live without you. I'm so sorry we started with a lie. I can't fix it or turn back time. Please forgive me if you can. I soon regretted that bet with Todd." "You never loved me," Robin said bitterly, her eyes filled with resentment and disappointment as she looked at Rick. "You only played me, cruelly played me, and I was a naive fool. Don't ever come near me again. Do you hear me? Forget about me. It's over between us. I've learned my lesson. Goodbye, Rick." With that, Robin ran away, choking back tears. Rick was furious. He got into his car and drove to Todd. He burst into Todd's apartment like a whirlwind and punched his friend square in the face. Glaring at him with hatred and contempt, he thundered, "You're nothing but a lowlife." Afraid he couldn't control himself behind the wheel, Rick decided to walk along the embankment to calm down and gather his thoughts. His head spun from everything that had happened. His heart ached, knowing he had hurt the girl he loved with all his heart. The young man felt desperate, realizing that Robin, being too proud, might never forgive him. After calming down, Rick resolved to fight for his happiness. He called and messaged Robin every day, but she neither answered his calls nor replied to his messages. She persistently ignored him, pretending not to notice his attempts to make amends. Robin no longer appeared at the cafe where she had once worked as a waitress. Rick missed her terribly and felt consumed by loneliness. He lost interest in everything that used to bring him joy. After another sleepless night, Rick decided to visit the place where Robin worked as a maid. He remembered well the address of the luxurious villa. Early in the morning he went there, hoping to talk to Robin and once more try to explain everything. To his surprise, half an hour later, he saw the gate open and Robin emerge with a tall, thin man in his 50s. The man gently stroked Robin's cheek, kissed her forehead, then got into his car and drove away. Rick froze in shock. Anger immediately engulfed him. He ran up to the girl and exclaimed, "I see you're not suffering or crying into your pillow. Spending time with your master? Got yourself a wealthy lover, have you?" "Rick!" Robin was surprised to see him. "What are you doing here? Spying on me? I don't have to justify myself to you. You're nothing to me. Go away. I told you I don't want to see you." "So, that's how it is," Rick said resentfully, looking defiantly into Robin's green eyes. "I don't need your excuses. I'm not a fool or blind. I understand everything. Good luck to you." Saying this, Rick got into his car and drove away. Behind the wheel, he called his father and said, "Dad, I agree to meet your business partner's daughter.
Let's have them over for a family dinner. We'll get to know each other then. I should have said yes right away. Let's do it." Rick's words pleased Mr. Tyson. He immediately called his partner and invited him, his wife and daughter to a family dinner. After that, he called the housekeeper and informed her that important guests were expected the following evening and the reception should be of the highest standard. Rick was furious with Robin. He was convinced that she had immediately found a replacement for him, that she had begun sleeping with the owner of the rich house where she worked as a maid. The young man was bitterly disappointed by what he had seen on the street. He decided he had been mistaken about Robin, attributing qualities to her that she never possessed. Now he knew that his beloved had turned out to be as hypocritical as those girls from the provinces who came to the big city hoping to seduce any millionaire. Rick berated himself for having opened his heart to the girl and allowing himself to fall in love with her, and to get back at her, he agreed to meet his father's business partner's daughter. When evening came and the important guests arrived, the young man put on his favourite black tuxedo and walked downstairs confidently. But he froze in place when he saw the tall, thin man who had recently hugged and kissed Robin enter the house. Rick was even more shocked when Robin, dressed in a luxurious bright blue dress, entered after the man. Their eyes met. For a moment, Rick and Robin looked at each other, oblivious to their surroundings. Both were in a state of shock. Rick managed to control his emotions. He slowly approached the guests and smiled at them casually. Robin also composed herself and pretended that nothing unusual had happened. The former lovers continued to glance at each other, but no one else noticed. "Son," said Mr. Tyson, looking hopefully at Rick, "this is my business partner's daughter. I've told you about her many times. This is Robin." "We've already met," the girl whispered embarrassedly in one breath. The men were surprised that their children were already acquainted. They knew nothing about what had transpired between Rick and Robin. Rick had questions that kept him in suspense. He couldn't understand how a poor provincial girl had suddenly become the daughter of his father's partner. Had she also deceived him as he had her? Rick offered to give Robin a tour of their unusually beautiful garden, and she readily agreed, wanting to be alone with him. As soon as they were out of earshot, he asked, "What's going on? I don't know what to think anymore. You've turned my whole life upside down. Why are you in my house?" "It's quite simple," Robin replied quietly, taking a deep breath. "A few months ago, my father decided to introduce me to his business partner's son. He asked me to be an obedient model girl and try to charm this promising lad, a marriage he thought would be very advantageous. His presumption enraged me. I refused to indulge my father and socialize with someone just because he came from a wealthy family. My dad's prejudices often infuriate me. He believes the heiress of a large empire should only associate with her own kind. I was furious and told my father I wouldn't meet his business partner's son, that I'd decide whom to be with. I asked him to stay out of my personal life. I admit I was harsh. To punish my insolence, he took away my money and made me work as a waitress in a cafe. He also assigned me an area to clean daily. I had to obey, but anything was better than agreeing to that meeting. It was a matter of principle. I wanted to make it clear that my private life is mine alone, and no one, not even my father, has the right to overstep those boundaries. I was willing to work harder to prove my point. So I started working, and then you appeared and began courting me. At first I ignored you, but your persistence won me over. You snuck into my heart and mind. I fell in love with you. That sweet feeling terrified me. I knew we had no future, but I couldn't help it. I was consumed by my love for you, regardless of what people would say or how my father would react. I wanted to spend my life with you, but then you wounded me deeply with your lies. After I calmed down, I decided I wouldn't let you destroy me. I told my father I'd meet his business partner's son. He was overjoyed, thinking he'd taught me a lesson. I had no idea you'd turn out to be the very son I'd stubbornly refused to meet. Fate is unpredictable. Nothing can surprise me now. Rick listened, dumbfounded. He kept asking himself, is this possible? Has fate, which I've never believed in, decided to show its power? The young man was once again convinced that he and Robin were destined to be together, as fate had stubbornly brought them together and showed no signs of retreating. Rick, still in shock, looked at the girl and realized he still loved her, passionately, ardently, intensely, and couldn't imagine his life without her. I don't even know what to add to your words, Rick whispered, confused. After all, I had almost the same experience as you. I, too, refused to meet you, and resolutely told my father that I would find my soulmate myself without his help. Then I had a bet with a now former friend. Do you know what happened next? At first, I really wanted to win the bet, and then I genuinely fell in love with you. I didn't know how to tell you the truth. I was afraid you wouldn't understand, wouldn't forgive me, and would turn away from me. I didn't want to lose you, so I kept quiet. That day, when I came to your house and saw you at the gate with your father, I was furious because I was sure he was your lover. After that, I also told my dad that I agreed to meet you. I didn't care what happened next. I wanted revenge, that's all. Robin, if you leave me now and go away, my life will turn into an eternal dark night. And I will never see the dawn again, because I don't need it if I don't have you by my side. Robin, I can't live without you. Everything lost meaning after we broke up. Please, give me another chance. I'll prove myself worthy of your love. I'll earn your trust again. Just give me that opportunity. Where would I go from you now? Robin replied. It's fate that we will be together. I can't leave now. If I do, I'll leave my heart here, and I'll never be happy again. I can only be happy with you. Why don't we forget about the past and start from scratch? Let's pretend we just met today. Rick grabbed the girl in his arms and spun her around. He was overjoyed, for he had gained the greatest treasure in the world, love, for which one would give everything. They both walked through the garden until nightfall, holding hands tightly. They hugged, kissed, dreamed of the future, and discussed where to spend their honeymoon.